Um, mm, um,
Hello?
Hello, hello, hello.
Am I the only one not on mute?
Yeah,
All times.
Looks that way.
he's up. Corey. You were late last week, right? And I'm not like making fun of you. I'm saying that like
He's
No,
making
you
fun
can
of
make
you.
fun of me.
without you, no, I'm not. Without you, there was no one to talk to me immediately, and then, so things kind of fell apart. But you're here now, Corey. So say
I
something.
am. Are you? Do you watch Stranger Things? As in like the trailer for season 5, which is supposed to release I think November this year, came out.
Okay,
I don't,
okay, Corey.
the,
Okay, cool.
I've unleashed. I've opened Pandora's box.
Look, the situation is.
Oh no! Oh, I know what it is. There's a game that you haven't
No,
passed yet.
I think there is a Stranger Things game
I'm sure there
actually.
is.
But yeah, I haven't played that. Um, no, it's the last season. I haven't finished that one.
Oh,
Um,
okay. And season 4 was good. I think it's good.
everyone tells me, Doobie tells me it was like really good. I started it, and it didn't like super catch my interest at the first. And I was like a big fan of Stranger Things previously. It didn't catch my interest, at least in the first half. Maybe there just in the later episodes it really like turns up. But I don't know. It was yeah. But that doesn't mean I don't want to finish it. And so no, I haven't seen the trailer though.
Okay,
Um,
but how did you feel about the did you watch the I'm assuming you watched the first 3 seasons because that tends to be
yeah.
your
I liked them.
go-to.
I thought innovative show. Um, it really caught the spirit of being a kid. Um, uh, uh, I don't know. Being a kid in the '80s, we'll have to ask Scott about that. But
I was born in 1990, you asshole.
The 1880s. Where's Hightower when you need him?
Yeah. So yeah. So I think it's definitely powerful, and I like the whole friendship thing. And then like the idea of them like splitting apart, as they grow up because their interests grow. Like it's good. I like that. I like those character moments. I don't know.
But it's not, like, up there in, like, whatever top tier television for you, at least that's the impression that I'm
And I
getting.
think it's again, people ask me to rank things, and I just like I
No,
never
I don't
rank
need,
these
like, a
things the way.
number, but, like,
Yeah, I
separating,
think I think it's
above
really high.
50%.
It's
Okay,
I
okay.
think it's extremely good. I mean, like, would I put it in the absolute best? I mean, it's got tough competition. Like Andor is
Fair
there.
enough.
Game
Andor
of
blows
Thrones
Stranger
season one
Things out
through
of the
six.
water. It's not even close.
Oh yeah, they're not even close. Game of Thrones seasons 1 through 6, right?
Also blows
Like
Stranger Things out of
Well,
the
amazing.
water.
yeah, I mean, you're kind of,
The
framing Game of Thrones really,
Hold on. The worst
like,
season of Game
weak.
of Thrones is better than the best moment in all of Stranger Things. Like I
What?
will take I will take season 7 of Game of Thrones in its worst moment over anything of Stranger Things. It's mids. It's
Okay.
highly overrated. I'll tell you another show that's like that. Breaking Bad. Both of them highly
I
overrated.
I agree with that.
Like, I'm just not impressed at all with Stranger Things, and I absolutely hate. I actually like this chick as an actor, but I actually hate her so much in fucking Stranger Things that I almost didn't watch any of the other movies because she's so terrible. Is that whatever chick that plays 7 or 11 with a 35-inch head? I don't
7
know.
or 11.
Well, yeah, I don't know what her name is.
35-inch head.
She's got like, she's awful. I hate her. I hated her in that show. It was unbearable to
Yo.
watch. But she's great in every other show she's in, but terrible in that shit.
All I know about Stranger Things is I watched season 1 and I was like, wow, this is a great show. And then season 2 came out and I was like, hey man, why are these people not locked in a black site in like, in like fucking Peru somewhere? Like, how the fuck are these people hanging
Because the
out in their
plot-
neighborhood?
The plot needs to happen, obviously.
Suspension
I
of
was just like,
disbelief.
and I couldn't like I'm okay with a plot hole, right? Like in Game of Thrones, right? Like the actor that plays John's friend beyond the wall still being fat despite, getting limited food and like trekking across mountains, and like all the I'm okay with that plot hole. You know what I mean? Like it's whatever. You know what I mean? The actor's fat. He stayed fat in the show. He's not dedicated to his craft. I don't really care. Like whatever. There's a fat guy there.
Well,
It doesn't really break
I
anything
think
for
he
me.
was also overweight in the book, but go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Sure, whatever. The plot hole in the book stays in the show. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's not a big thing, right? Like it's not a huge, but like them just being like, let's hang out at the mall, being like, how did the government not either did not disappear all of you? Makes no fucking, and like I just couldn't get into it. Like I watched like 2 or 3 episodes and I was just like, this is dumb. And like, so I've never picked it up again because it's just so clearly very poorly written that like even basic concept of trying to keep it, connected to reality is like not there. Like reality is just like a tool for them to sometimes engage with as a means of telling whatever story they want to tell. And that's fine. It's just not for me.
Fair enough. If it's not, for
I
you,
like shows with good
fair
writing. You know what I mean?
Okay, I think that's unfair.
Well,
But,
what's the show with good rating for you,
but if it's
Scott?
not for you, it's
Now I'm
not for you. That part's fair. Go ahead. Sorry, what did you say, Corey?
I'm curious then for what counts as good writing for Scott, a TV show example of that.
First couple of seasons of The Expanse, I think, was a phenomenal show and written very well.
Expanse. Let's talk about shows that were so
I like how
good
so
and then
far,
crashed
when I ask the
immediately.
question, people are like these sets of seasons from this series here, then nothing else. And take the best of this.
Well, The Expanse is one
Well,
of
no, I
the,
think-
hold on,
no,
The
I think
Expanse is a prime
that's-
example of
that's
that, though. It's
just-
so good, and it's just awful.
I can also say for the first season of Stranger Things 1, it's like the best, and we could ignore all of the rest, and therefore it's
Well, no, that's literally every show, though,
No,
right?
it's not.
Because like I think anime doesn't have this problem.
Oh,
and I
anime
think-
definitely has that problem.
I think, hold on, and I think fantasy that is based off of novels that are sold as television series often don't have this problem. And the problem I'm specifically identifying is that there is a material that is a complete story that already exists that you can work with. But with most network television and even streaming services, right, they sell you a pilot and they maybe sell you 2 seasons. And then if it continues, right, then you have more story to tell. And I think you see this with Breaking Bad. First couple of seasons of Breaking Bad makes sense and it's really good. And then eventually it starts to fall off because like the entire concept of the character is that he is a high school teacher that gets into selling meth to pay for his cancer. And then it's like, and now it's drug warlord time. And like, they kind of have to throw things together. And eventually these shows always end up having to retcon things. And, because that's just what happens when you come out with a new season and you have to finish the story and then it does well. And then you have to sell the studio another season. Whereas with anime or with, fantasy or sci-fi films, television series, not films, that are based off of books, you don't get this as much because there's already a complete story out there. There's already a structure, and that tends to do a little better.
I disagree with that, honestly. Like you mentioned The Expanse, and actually the books do a bad job of this too. Because I have them all over here. And The Expanse had like such an interesting concept of like, okay, when we do space, like exploration stuff, and space kind of like political issues, it's always on like something like Star Wars or Warhammer, where it's like galaxy wide, there's lots of aliens or whatever. The Expanse did really good in its first
It's very
half.
realistic,
Right, yeah.
And
You
like,
have-
and it's yeah.
Right, we have this
Well,
idea
I
of like
think
the asteroid,
The
like Mighty
Expanse
Bell.
isn't a good
Well,
short.
let Gibbs finish. Let
Well,
Gibbs
yeah,
finish.
so it does this really good job in the first half where it does this localized like stuff where you have the different issues of like, oh, Mars is like a military literally whatever. We have Earth, it's whatever post-Earth. We have the asteroid belt and the outer like rings and stuff. And then it starts going off these wacky concepts where like we're exploring with other aliens through this bubble universe bullshit. Awful, terrible. It like ruined the entire show.
Yeah, no,
it
I agree.
ruined the series of books. And like I think I disagree though, because we mentioned Andor here. Andor did something really good. Is they had a set frame. They said we're gonna do 5 seasons. Then they go, no, that's gonna loop too long. We're gonna narrow them down to 3 episode arcs. We're gonna put them out there, and it's gonna be really good. I think that so far, House of the Dragon, although it's had issues, has done a good job of adapting stuff that didn't work in the books and making it work, and then changing some of the storylines slightly in the book from the books to do a really, really good job on the screen, like the blood and cheese thing. That was really good. And then having the dog story of that was just a little thing. If you had to watch and notice the dog is watching, like first he's taking care of the guy, and then by the end of like 3 episodes later, you see the dog like sitting there waiting for his master's body to be cut down, and it's over the time you see it. That like little things like that really add to something. Stranger Things did never do that. I think that there's a lot of shows that get lost. Anime is extremely bad about this. You see like arcs in One Piece where some of them, they add them where it's filler, and that's not their fault. Hold on, hold on.
Dial it back.
Hold on, I
Dial it
got
back.
this. I promise. I would know you'll admit that the filler arcs, and this is a problem with all anime, are never up to par. There's a few exceptions to like with
Okay,
anime.
but why do filler arcs exist? Why do filler arcs exist?
Because you have to have something while they take time to write the new anime, right? However, you'll see though
they don't have a complete story, right? Instead,
sure,
what they do,
but there's exceptions.
Solo
hold on. One last thing with the One Piece thing. One last thing with the One Piece thing, though. Well, okay, cool. Solo is, but anime has a problem where it's a lot of this shit like you get one season and you never get any more. If it's designed to be one more season, like Cowboy Bebop, it's great. But like One Piece has this problem where sometimes it becomes somewhat predictable because say you get rid of Chopper for an arc and you have like what was the one with at least most recent Wano, right? You have that Emperor's son kid, I can't remember his name, where he's like really just an annoying character, or you get rid of Usopp and you plug him in and you can start to predict things in One Piece based off which characters are doing what, because he's always going to have the same characters overcome these challenges, and that's a problem. Well, I'm not making an argument. I'm stating that an overall problem with these shows is like it becomes repetitive to some degree in One Piece and some of these other. Because he does the same arc over and over, and I don't necessarily think that's like
One
great
Piece
television.
One Piece is a bad example because
Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Superman, Dragon Ball Super.
So hold on, listen. My argument was as such is that this tends to be less of a problem in this specific genre because they are more likely to have this characteristic. And it's the characteristic that I'm talking about that I think solves the problem, not necessarily the genre that solves the problem. I agree with you that there's a lot of anime that runs too long, that does anime filler arc, that like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's a common.
I'm not really
what
talking
I'm saying
about filler
is,
arc being the problem. I mean, you can't help that.
What I'm saying is when there is a complete narrative that's done and then they sell to a studio, we want to tell this story, that there is already this building block for a complete story. And so therefore it is less likely to fall into the trap of completing a story, getting sold another season, so then they have to reopen the story and and try and convince you, the audience, of like the necessity for another season, right, et cetera, and like going on and on and on. I agree that like plenty of anime that is based off of manga, especially ongoing manga, has problems, et cetera. I'm just talking about the ability to tell a complete story is diminished, especially in network television, where you sell a studio 1 or 2 seasons and then you constantly sell them a new season, and so the blueprint has to change for the story.
I
think you're muted.
Network TV does this blueprint thing where it's like if you look at like Once Upon a Time, for example, that's like one of the most successful shows ABC's ever had, right? And they do this thing where
that's a fun show,
right? Yeah, and it's good, right? And it has a lot of seasons. And one of the things,
I don't know if it's good, but it was fun.
It was successful, right? I mean, I don't know about like quality. It's not going to beat any of these others as far as
according to Lactoid, that thus makes it the greatest show that NBC has ever done.
But I will say this one thing that Once Upon a Time does is, yes, when they go back to the well, they fit their like episodic format. Yeah, you'll have your overall story arc, but each one follows that. And I think there's a reason why that format works so good for network TV. And there's a reason why you don't get many like Battlestar Battlestar Galacticas, and you get more of like Once Upon a Times, because you're not
or
gonna
like
have,
or like Law and Order.
right,
Law
yeah,
and
Law
Order,
and Order,
right?
same
Like
way.
you don't really need to watch every episode of Law and Order to get an episode of Law and Order. You watch
Right.
an episode and it kind of makes sense. Same thing is true of oh my god, what's that
NCIS.
fantasy? Well, that fantasy show with the two brothers that like all the girls used to fawn over.
Oh, yeah.
Supernatural.
It was on CW.
Supernatural, right? Supernatural figured out what worked from Angel and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and what was the other one? Was it Wicked or
Vampire Diaries?
Well, no, the Vampire Diaries is like newer, right? Like they figured out what worked from those shows, which is the episodic format of like, yes, there's an overall story here, but each individual episode is kind of a story. But I think that's more a limiting factor of the fact that like old school TV, you didn't have streaming services, right? You couldn't catch up on it unless you went to the store and bought like, you know, the VHS or the DVD collection of a season, right? And so like you don't want people to not be able to watch your show halfway through the show and be forced to watch the first half, because there's no way they'd catch the reruns. Like even if you bought it, like you could buy a TV guide and maybe see when the reruns would go, and like get Reader's Digest, and then like hopefully you could like find out what the schedule was and catch up on an episode you missed or something. But like before DVR came out, you know what I mean? Like you just couldn't do that. So I think that's just an old
we did have
media
shows
thing.
like that. They just, for whatever reason, didn't happen in those fantasy
Charmed.
sci-fi
That was it.
formats.
Sorry, Charmed
Like
was the one I was
Dallas?
looking for.
Dallas was like a continuous storyline like that, and you kind of had to know. But we didn't have DVRs, but we did have VCRs. I think VCRs are what enabled that kind of show to kind of take off, at least at that time.
Because
But I do
eventually,
agree
yeah,
that it got more common.
you could record stuff if you missed an episode or something, you know, and watch it later for sure. But even still, if you weren't home when it aired, you were fucked until DVR.
No.
out.
You could program VCRs.
Yeah.
Well,
we
I
did.
mean,
Those fancy ones.
sure, if you had money back in the day, yeah, you had
I don't
programmable
think VCRs weren't that expensive.
I
Hold on.
remember having VCRs.
No, the VCRs. I'm talking about like there was a period of time where VCRs couldn't do that. Then there was a period of time where they could, but only expensive VCRs could do that.
No,
Then
what
cheap
was-
VCRs did
what
that.
was it was a big
in
shift.
The 90s, they had VCRs.
Yeah, there was a big shift, like
Yes, in the
mid-90s.
90s. Yes,
like
in-
the
by the
80s.
mid
But you're saying that,
90s.
no, but your problem saying is that they were expensive. I'm saying that they weren't expensive like that. They weren't like an
Yeah,
arm and
I
a leg.
remember
like,
when slow-mo became a thing for VCR recording. That was the big shift, and that I remember, like, it wasn't ever expensive to have the programming ones. I remember we got a cheap one from, like, I don't know, a pawn shop for like $5, right? Back in, like, I don't know, 95, one of my first movies. And then I remember my dad's like, we're gonna spend some money and get a good VCR. I'm tired of watching this. I want to see slow-mo plays. And I guess what was it, 8? It was not an 8-track, but it was called an 8 something, or a 4-head or some bullshit. And like it had slow-mo, and he bought it. He was like, this is $60. And I was like, it's so expensive. And like now I'm just like, man, I wish I could get my $60 for some shit now. $60 won't even buy me a burger at McDonald's. Goddamn Biden, it's all your fault.
I mean, there
Yeah.
I
was a
was
time
trying to find out
when-
how expensive they were, and apparently VCR launched in 1956. I had no idea they were out though, and they cost $50,000.
Well, the original one. So.
Yeah,
I
but,
actually like the first prototype.
like when those kinds of shows came out, that was the 1980s. By then, you could get a programmable VCR for like $500-$600, which, you know, it's a little bit pricey, but it's not out of reach, I don't think, for a lot of families to get something like that.
So, like the
In today's money or in then money?
Back then, it was $500-$600.
So it'd
for
be
that
like-
kind of
that'd be
VCR in the early
Yeah,
years.
that'd be like buying a whole new gaming computer, like a $2,000
Yeah,
gaming
not
computer.
not cheap, but I think also widely available enough to where shows like Dallas could, like, you know, exist.
So
So I was right. That's what we're getting to. Got it.
It wasn't. You know, I think there are plenty of VCRs that.
Yeah, eventually
I didn't
VCRs
grow
got
up in
cheaper.
the-
That's how it is
I
with all
don't-
tech.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So, good. Then we can understand that people could have programmable VCRs that didn't cost arm and leg, which is my point that I made. Right.
$2,000 is a lot.
Not $2,000. I'm saying they were much lower than that. Like way lower.
Eventually,
than that.
yes.
well, yeah, hold on. But then that's what I'm referring to. Yes, when it first comes out, everything's expensive. No one's making an argument against that. If you're saying yes, when it first dropped, then immediately yes, that's going to be expensive. Every time for every technology.
I was saying that there's a continuum, right? And that things change. Then they get cheap, and then DVR comes out, and then fucking streaming services come out. Like that was my argument, right? Or actually, you get
now we're back
Blockbuster.
to
Amazing
and
debate
now
topic.
streaming services are basically
Top
network
tier.
You know what I'm saying?
I will find
just
a
gone in a
way to
circle. We're back
shoehorn
to the original.
Austrian economic theory into any conversation.
Radio program,
So let me
radio
do
dramas
it.
are coming back, boys.
So-
next, that's what we're doing next. Radio dramas, War of the World.
So I was just gonna say that, like, well, I'll say two things. One, this is the same thing about kids shows, right? So one, they had that, there was the original argument, I think probably is for all shows, right, for all ages, about what you're talking about. Hey, like, we want people to be able to follow, our shows, but we can't be there all the time, and so like we'll avoid that. We'll have like episodic, and that'd be the most
Yeah, it was like He-Man and shit like that was very episodic, and then like Naruto and Dragon Ball Z changed
so
that.
anime
Dragon Ball Z
like,
definitely
came
pushed
in, and because they did it differently in Japan, right? They gotta trust the kids to be able to follow these things, right?
Well, they also did a lot more reruns in Japan.
In any case, they trust the kids to follow these things. The point is, and we have they did plenty of reruns in America too. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The point
Toonami
is
crazy with the reruns.
Saturday morning cartoons, same thing.
that
Yeah.
So anime changed the field of play there. So that's the case. Also, I wouldn't be a good One Piece and Badges if I didn't push back on trash talk here. One Piece actually is amazing. People say that, I can predict what's going to happen. I like, as a person who's been like watching as these arcs have coming out for a decade plus, right? Every arc as they're happening, people are always saying, I can predict what's about to happen, right? Oda's done this thing before. Oda being the author, I can predict what's going on. They are wrong all the time.
Maybe
right?
they're wrong, but Gibbs is not wrong.
Because they have sure, whatever. We're gonna have to give me proof on that one. Oda does have certain structures, and what Oda does, especially because there's I guess I don't have to go too deep into it. The point is that he can have a structure for an arc, right? And he can have characters that fulfill certain roles within that arc, but they constantly change. Like, there's constantly surprises that are coming out. So if you haven't watched it, it's amazing. In fact, read it is even better, because then you don't have to worry about the fillers that Admiral Gibbs is talking about.
If you get into like a severe car accident, you're going to be hospitalized for 3 months.
They actually have Prime. They actually have now the One Piece, where it's like you can get rid of the fillers too if you.
They have.
What is, I don't know what they're called.
There's two different services that like specifically cut out the fillers in the arc. But separately from that, there is going to be a new One Piece anime coming out, right? Called The One Piece, not confused at all. And The One Piece is basically going to start like really from the beginning and keep going, but like at a pace. One Pace is the name of the service you're thinking of, Gibbs. At a pace that's like not like butchered, because they had to like keep the manga ahead of the anime. It'll just be I was
gonna say one thing One Piece has done that I think is like, One Piece is a great show. I agree. I think that you're right. He does the surprises and he has roles and he fills them. My biggest complaint about One Piece actually solves itself. The first, I think up until about Thriller Bark, it was almost unwatchable for me, because it did the thing that like Dragon Ball Z used to do, which would be like, you would have this episode end, and then you'd have 3 minutes of flashbacks for like the first, and it's only a 22-minute show. You'd have 3 minutes flashbacks, you'd have main story, the character would have another flashback mid-story to like an episode before, and then it would be like, oh, okay, so we're gonna watch 3 minutes of stuff we've already seen again. Then we're gonna come back, and then we're gonna have whatever happened at the end, and then we're gonna start the same thing. So you only got like 10 minutes of new content at like the first half. Then after Thriller Bark, they stopped doing a lot of the flashbacks, or only do them as needed. I think that was really
That's
good.
super common in anime.
Yeah, it's really
super common in anime.
But One Piece did a good job
Naruto.
after getting rid of that. Oh, I know, because Naruto's dog shit. So
right, Naruto, you'll see like 2 punches in a fight scene, and then all of a sudden you hear that music. Ba-da-da.
Dragon Ball Z was bad about that, but Dragon
And
Ball
you're
Z.
like, fuck.
Well, the
Not-
Cell song is famous
You
for
see
that.
Naruto on that fucking swing again? Remember? Dad on that swing. Oh my god,
Dude. Dude.
yeah.
And you're gonna get 4 people being like Sasuke.
But One Piece stopped doing that towards like after
no.
Thriller Bark. It does it some, but it's way
fuck,
less prominent. That helped me be the watchability quite a bit for me.
I need a cut of Naruto Shippuden and Naruto where they not only cut the anime arc, but they cut all of the flashbacks.
They have that.
Like, it's like,
They have that.
Do they have that?
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody has made one of those.
You guys are
Yeah,
just
that's what I need.
weebing out right now. Okay.
So
You guys are going off.
Yeah, we get it. You had to interrupt to be like,
Oh.
"Oh, don't forget, I get pussy." Like,
Yeah, I'm
okay,
not
we get it.
Yeah, I
got nothing to add to the conversation.
No,
You're just as
I
much of a
drown.
dweeb
I
as
don't
we
get,
are 'cause
I
you're here.
drown. Okay,
First of all,
I drown.
anime will get you pussy. By the way, I've
Jesus.
discovered. I didn't know that, but
I just got lost. I wanted to say something. I had nothing to say. I was just, watching you guys. It was something had to break or you were going to go forever.
true.
That's how I feel when Lactoid has like 7 more comments before we switch topics. Okay, but before we switch comment, I have 2 more questions for everybody here.
Just let me get the last word. What happened then? Jesus.
Hey, he's a certain authority there. So Doobie, are you there? You
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm fine. Okay. Are you ready to
You
go?
need the
I-
frog.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. 1 second.
Yeah, no problem, friend. So
Oh my god, Dolphin Law.
yeah. So okay, this I guess we'll get into it. There were some things I wanted to bring up, but I guess I'll leave them aside for now. This weekend was an interesting one. I tell you, I had the topic set a few times.
Did something happen this weekend?
Just one or 2 things. It might have been below your
I
radar.
heard there was some disagreement
Yeah.
in the Middle East. Some people
Yeah.
were like arguing about something.
And and in
Slight
America or
disagreement.
something? I don't know.
So I had
Pretty fireworks though.
I had the
Saxophones in
the topic set,
Lebanon.
but then I had to keep changing and then agonizing over.
Oh, Father's
usually-
Day. Father's Day happened this weekend. Okay, got it.
and it's a big focus of mine, right? And as you
Is
all
it because
know,
you're black and you don't know your dad?
What the fuck, Scott?
I had to. It was
No,
right
you-
there.
yes,
I know
yes,
You,
you
you
had
actually, you
to.
actually didn't have
he
to.
had to. Let's
You
focus
did-
on that. He had to.
Called self-control.
I had to, man.
Okay. It's cool. Okay. All right. Anyway, we can move past that.
I'm sorry. That might have been a bridge too far, but it
No,
was
it's
funny.
fine. It's fine. It's fine. So I usually on the weekends when I like trying to get a topic, like it's a struggle, right? I'm like, what's gonna actually be interesting? What are these guys going to latch on to, right? Like, because every so often I come up with something and you guys just like blow past it. Like we're not interested. That's it.
Let's talk
and so,
anime
like,
for 3 hours.
so that wasn't an issue this time. In fact, this is the exact opposite, and I wasn't sure like which one to do. I decided on the one that I did, being the assassinations, only because I thought that this will only probably be relevant for this week, and like the war will be unfortunately relevant next week. And the new crazy shit will have happened.
We're going to talk about the war. It's fine.
Yeah, we're gonna. Yeah,
We're gonna.
We're going to talk about both. Let's be honest.
So yeah, and I was gonna also present that to you guys. We can also
And
talk
how
about
they're connected.
multiple. Oh boy.
Oh baby. Oh, we're really getting into it today. That's what I'm talking about.
And
Give
I
out
was
Joe's
gonna say,
hat.
if you guys want to, we can also discuss it multiple times. I know my friend Doopy wants to bring up the war as well, and hey, I never shy away from Israeli butchery. So so there's that. And there's also, of course, the protests that happened, the No Kings protests, and then the piddly shit Trump parade.
That's
that
no
happened.
tyrants for you, Corey.
Yeah.
They had to change the name because they have a king. Not even joking.
They do.
They are
Yeah.
part of the Commonwealth. Yeah.
And
They literally
uh,
changed the name.
They wait. No, no, did they seriously? Oh no, they had.
Yeah,
the-
like in their like bulletins and stuff, like for their counter protests, so like
I didn't know they
protest
had
Trump.
protests.
They changed the graphic and everything to no tyrants because they can't do no
they have
kings
kids.
because they literally have a fucking king and it's hilarious.
I thought you were joking. Wow, that's actually really funny.
I'm not joking.
Oh wow, that's hilarious. Hey, like the next time he was just Corey. He was literally just in your country. Why didn't you take his head off? Is what I don't understand.
Well, I'll save that for next trip. I guess.
Sure, okay. But yeah, so there was just so much to talk about.
But you forgot one thing: the Trump phone that was just recently released.
The Trump phone. Sorry,
That was
You ready?
released. It was released. $500.
I didn't hear about the Trump phone.
And even this is like
There's a Trump phone?
Factoid.
Yeah, listen. There's nothing more. Hold on. First of all, there's nothing more patriotic, according to Laptroid.
Yeah,
and,
nothing.
and
the
moral
is
and
starting a
moral than
business
having
and yeah.
having money. And so, guess what? Trump is fully following that
Yes,
and putting out the Trump phone.
all of the
for America.
anti-government
Every
conservatives
day,
are
Lactoid
gonna
just
flee.
regrets more
Are
and
gonna
more.
flee.
Oh, wait a
the
minute. Wait a
Trump
minute. Hold on. It's not even just a phone.
That's
It's
right.
a whole
It's
cell phone
a network.
service.
It's
It's a
Trump
whole
against-
It's
service.
competing with like Verizon.
God bless
Like
Trump.
telecommunications.
I guess T-Mobile
pull-
now.
Pull back, please, and explain to me what's going on. I don't know. I have no idea.
I obviously didn't do a deep dive, okay, because I don't really care and it's just stupid. But from what I understand, okay, if you just go to trumpmobile.com, okay, you can buy a phone that obviously has a gold sticker on it and the Trump logo, and you know, it's I'm sure it's just already rebranded.
Unlimited talk, text, and data.
Yeah,
Corey, it's a good deal.
I know. I've never heard of this feature before. Unlimited talk and text. This is just like
I would have thought it was. Hold on, is it really unlimited or is it only unlimited on weekends and nights?
Nah, it says unlimited for only $47. It also comes with roadside assistance.
Wow, what a steal! He's looking out for
And-
hardworking
You get
Americans.
AAA? That's
and I
fucking sick.
believe
Triple A
telehealth
with it.
as well. I think
That
that's
what a patriot! He's sitting here making money for Americans, making new products, and providing roadside assistance within a reasonable price, along with
We're
chocolate
fucking
chips,
not
napkins,
here.
I want you. I
bundle.
want you.
And you
I
want to talk about
you- I
political
want- no,
violence?
careful.
That's what Prime wants us.
I want you to pay attention to what Gibbs is doing. This is the person who's like, we need guns to pretty much, you know, so that the government fears us, and he's literally now shilling a phone
Well,
from
hold
the
on.
government.
Well, see, but you're getting it
wants
wrong.
Burger King to have nukes. Okay,
Yeah,
Gibbs
Real quick,
wants Burger
remember when
King to have
Obama phones were like actually a
McDonald's
joke?
to have gang wars with one another.
This is Trump
Like
phone.
literally.
Yeah, I mean, also,
Does
I'm going to use
if
my
you buy
Trump
the
phone to give them
do you get
misinformation
into
about how
the
it's that way they
Plan
can't track me.
Air? Do you get in the Plan Air database quicker if you get the Trump phone or not?
No.
You mean the Palantir?
Yeah, Palantir. Oh, he's real quiet
Well,
now.
If you sell enough Trump phones, you know, maybe. I mean, that's.
But
the
you guys actually gonna get the Trump phone? Is it like one of those mint things where they like, you know, like buy data off some other carrier or some shit?
Yeah,
Unironically,
it's like
it actually
it's like
does
any-
look like a good
yeah.
deal as long as it's accurate what they're advertising.
I mean, it's like Boost Mobile's a good deal though when they tell you like unlimited talk text because they're just using some other networks like towers. They're just gonna jump on like T-Mobile's towers or whatever like the cheapest provider is right now, and then
It says
I
they're
mean-
using the towers for the top 3 providers.
so Verizon, T-Mobile,
Verizon's been
Sprint,
bought by
and-
T-Mobile, so it's what, and I think Sprint may have been too. Wait, is Verizon still? Was it Sprint?
Yeah,
that was bought?
Verizon-
Sprint
Well, Verizon's on its own.
Sprint got
Sprint got
by
bought
T-Mobile.
off.
Yeah.
Sprint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sprint got
Of all
bought
the
off.
shit that
Verizon,
happened this
T-Mobile,
weekend,
and
this
Sprint.
is the most hilarious thing to focus
Verizon,
on.
AT&T, and T-Mobile. Those are the top 3.
Yeah.
Hold on,
God
while we're
bless
waiting for Grid. Can
capitalism.
I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
Okay, so I was very surprised when the topic tonight wasn't the Iran thing. Obviously, so I'm like, can I just like while we're waiting for Grid, can you guys just like give me like your general like position on whether or not the U.S. should get involved, whether or not
We
it's a
already
good thing
told
that
Prime we're
Israel
gonna
did
talk
this?
about
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we assumed that we were basically already going to talk about it
Yeah.
as the first topic.
Yeah. So the DB, I'm not sure if you heard me because I was saying this before. The reason why I picked this particular topic was because I figured it would be only relevant for like this week, the assassinations, and that the Iran war would unfortunately keep going. But we can still discuss it. I was saying to the guys, right? Like, if you want, we can discuss it multiple times. So, if ahead of the assassination discussion, we can jump into it if you like. So if you want to do it now, yeah, you can go.
All right, Lactoid, lead us
Vote that.
off.
I vote that.
Go for it, Lactoid.
Doobie, well, I thought Doobie had some questions.
Yeah,
that
he asked the
wanted to ask
question.
us.
Yeah, I just want to know what your positions are. Should we do? Is it a good thing that Israel attacked, et cetera, like all that kind of shit, like the whole thing? Okay, just anywhere you want to take it.
Okay.
Like 1946.
Yeah, well, we got to go way back. No, we don't have to. I think America should not.
They always
get
start
involved.
with 46, don't they?
I think America should not get involved. That's basically my opinion on this.
I
Okay,
think Gibbs
I'll
is
go
going to be
then.
the only one that says "Go America."
So I think so everything I'm about to say is contingent upon what we currently know, right? Because obviously there's a lot of information missing that we'll probably never get. But I think it comes to no shock that I don't believe we should get involved in this situation. Doobie's a little older as well as I am. So we've been around as Bibi Netanyahu's been telling us that Iran is going to have a nuclear weapon in the next few weeks, since 1992, right? They're a few weeks away for the last 33 years from having a nuke. I don't know whether or not they do or they don't, but let's assume that they were they were actually close to being able to have a viable nuclear warhead. If that is the case, I don't think Israel is unjustified in attacking their nuclear program. Iran is Iran with a nuke is obviously a threat to them. But at the same time, I don't fucking support Israel. I don't think that that's probably the best way to go about it. The thing that I'm far more concerned about beyond like the war itself and who's justified in doing what is the situation that Donald Trump is in is basically one of two scenarios. Is either Donald Trump has been lying to the American people and lying to, Iran and has been secretly working with Israel, I guess because some FBI agents told him that Iran was trying to assassinate him or some shit, right? And he's been working with them, being a puppet for Israel and our government and linking our government to this war by using negotiations as a smokescreen to gather information and buy time for Israel to start a war. That is an extreme betrayal of the American people. It is one of the most evil things a president could do, and potentially is worthy of impeachment if true, and removal from office. The other aspect is that Trump is a cowardly and weak bitch who got played by Israel. And then Bibi comes out and gives a fucking speech being like, oh, they chant death to America. And, I love Donald Trump so much. And Trump wants to appear like he's in the know. So he's acting like he's a big part of this fucking process so he can appear strong and is just a fucking puppet without the balls to say, no, we're not involved. You fucking told us like a week ahead of time or however long it was, so we pulled out. But like, this isn't our war. This is your war. So either A, Trump is a traitor and a lying scumbag piece of shit, and it would be perfectly justified to take his head off, or B, Donald Trump is a weak, ineffective president and a cowardly bitch that only wants to appear strong. And what that spells for our country is really bad. That's more my primary concern than, whether or not we get involved, because I don't want to be involved. Duh.
Yeah, so apparently we're trying to skip ahead to the assassination topic. This show, just to be clear, we don't want anyone's head to be taken off. We don't endorse anyone's head to be taken off for any particular
limbs
reason,
or
right?
any bodily harm whatsoever.
I don't endorse it either. I just said it would be justified.
And I hear you, friend. And I'm just in response to that, I'm saying we don't endorse any of that.
What ought we do with lying war criminals that commit treason? I don't know.
We should definitely throw them in the Hague.
Just
right?
fire them.
We start with President Biden, I think.
Public
I think it'd be a great
executions.
start. Let's go.
Prime, can I add one more thing to my pretty short opening statement?
Sure.
Since 1992, various American and Israeli officials have been saying that Iran is months away from a bomb since 1992. Just want to point that out.
Mm-hmm.
I just said that.
Yep. Thanks.
Yeah, but Lactoid
Scott.
said it better.
Yeah, and like short and digestible. We appreciate it, Lactoid.
All right.
Well, that's the
Corey.
importance of messaging. Stay on point. There's a lesson to
Yeah.
learn there. But I echo many of the same sentiments that Scott just outlined, minus the decapitation. Okay, not really a fan of that.
I said take his head off.
Minus
Who
the
knows
neck,
what
you
that
said? Is
metaphor
that what you
means?
said? Is that what this is about? Minus the neck? Okay.
minus the neck as but like yeah, so
Would
I
you
don't-
prescribe MAID?
if they so desire, if they want to come to Canada, sure. That is their right to self-determination.
I am not part of this conversation.
But okay, so
Another disclaimer I see. Great.
I don't think it's so clear cut. Like, do I want Iran to have nuclear weapons? If in fact they're actually trying to, cultivate that, I don't actually know for sure. Okay, obviously, I'm just going by what everyone else goes by in terms of what's being relayed to us through whatever intelligence that there may be, if any. But also at the same time, I don't really want any country to have nuclear weapons. But how do you actually stop that? Does that justify what Israel is doing? Not in my mind currently. So basically, as of now, it's like, yeah, I don't see why the U.S. or any country should get involved, and it doesn't seem like what Israel is doing is justified in my mind as of now. But facts and knowledge can change that. But that's where I stand now currently. I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you so much, Ali.
Yeah, just take Israel and put it somewhere else. No, obviously we shouldn't get involved. Obviously, I don't know what you expect when you direct bombs at a country. Also, I'm just like, I don't know how you can get such accurate shots in Iran, but in Gaza, you couldn't do anything. You had no information on anyone in your backyard, but a few thousand kilometers away, just fucking in the bedroom, specific, precise shots. Very very nice. No buildings knocked down, but yeah, obviously no, we shouldn't join this war. I don't know why we would fight a war for Israel. It's been a thorn in the Middle East and our side, since inception. So just pick it up and move it somewhere else.
That is an opinion. And
Yeah.
we appreciate you for it. Let's go to
Well, first I want to say that I have no particular interest in, saving Israel or helping the Gazans. I don't have a person now. So, guys, if y'all want to fund me, Zionists, Hamas, whoever, if y'all want to give me money, suddenly I'll take your side. Now, secondly, moving on from there, I will say this: this has been a really interesting thing to me because it's amazing how on the left we have this split, and somewhat on the right too, where people are like, oh, we love Ukraine, they have to stop Russia. And then they're like, oh, no, Israel fighting Iran bad, when Iran directly supports Russia. Crazy mental backflips there. There's one mitigating factor that nobody here has mentioned, and it's a big one. It's maybe the biggest one, and that is that Iran has fucking oil. So what I propose is Israel goes to the UN and says, hey, we have been strategic. The reason why we were able to target these people is because we have spies. It's an actual conventional power, unlike what Iran has been doing, which has been funding and supplying literal terrorists to attack soft civilian targets all over the world because they're evil religious empire led by an evil false prophet. It's terrible. What we need to do is say, if y'all don't back Israel against Iran or step off, what we're going to do is we're going to take over for Israel, and we're going to bomb every population center with B-52s until they sign the rights to surrender themselves away and stop existing as a country, because Iran doesn't deserve to exist as a country anymore. All they do is fund terrorism worldwide, and they have oil, and the U.S. loves fucking oil, and we should have it because fuck Iran. It's really that simple.
Okay. So I feel like someone's prediction on this was correct. Let's go to our friend Aiko. Thanks for being here, friend.
Yeah, it's strange. It sounds to me as if Gibbs thinks that the populace in Iran is unambiguously for their government 100%, which would be the justification that I would assume he has if he wants to bomb population centers. It sounds like they're totally representative government, and any government that we would put in its place would absolutely fail.
Well, the government
because
would be
they
ours.
want the current government. I'm not sure I agree with him there. I do think that that the question of Iran is a little bit complicated. But let me just to give the other side of it. Like 13 years ago, was it 13? Yeah, 13 years ago, Bibi Netanyahu came before the UN, held up that cartoon bomb. Remember that? And he said that they were 6 months away from acquiring nukes. Shortly afterwards, Obama said that he wants to do this Iran deal. And the goal of that deal was to delay any nuclear program by 10 years. That was all he could promise because he couldn't really project beyond 10 years. Well, that was 12 years ago at this point. And in the intervening years, they did not nuclearize. I think they would, after the bombing that we just saw a couple days ago, they said they were going to do a nuclear test in response to this to show them what they're capable of. Didn't happen because they don't have the capability. So the Iran deal worked. Ironically, the next person to suggest a deal similar to that was Trump. Trump actually calls Bibi Netanyahu and says, don't do this, give negotiations more time because I think negotiations going to work. Netanyahu did the opposite of what he was asked, which I think after getting cucked by Ukraine on Operation Spiderweb, having another operation happen that he was against, or in the case of Spiderweb, would have been against if anyone had told him about it. I think he's starting to wonder whether or not the people that he thinks are his allies are actually his allies.
Or respect him. They
Right.
don't. Doobie. Oh, well, yeah. What are your thoughts then?
I agree with the sociologic. Okay, but not, I think
Mindful poser, just lift.
yeah, just like lift it up and make it an
Yeah.
island in the ocean somewhere. Okay, they can
What-
they can
what
be
do-
like Madagascar in the ocean.
Have
What-
the
what
Saudis
Trump
build them a
might
fucking
do.
island, bro.
Yeah, actually, I'd be
So-
for that.
I think this like proves like beyond all reasonable doubt that Israel is a massive liability to the U.S. Right? Like this the way that they undermined the like Trump's attempt at a nuclear deal, and they said last month that they would agree to give up all their uranium stockpiles, anything enriched over civilian levels. They agreed to like daily inspections, just like they did under the Obama agreement. They agreed to everything Israel says they want, except I think. And all they wanted in return is the lifting of the sanctions that were reimposed after Trump pulled out of the deal. That's all they wanted, right? So the thing that they don't want to do is give up their ballistic missile research and creation, which they shouldn't do. That's why would we expect them to do that? I mean, Israel just demonstrated that they fucking need it. So like, it's kind of stupid. They also wanted them to give up all enrichment of uranium, including for civilian purposes, which is also fucking ridiculous. Iran signed on to the NPT. Israel has not. Israel has a nuclear weapon, no inspections, no nothing, no oversight. Right, so Iran is a right as a sovereign nation to develop this technology. They've made it clear for decades they don't actually want nuclear weapons. In fact, if we're to believe Netanyahu, that they were like weeks away, a month away, a couple of days away, 30 fucking years ago, and they haven't actually made a weapon by now, this should indicate that they don't actually have a desire to make a weapon. What they actually want is energy and medical research, which is what they said for fucking years. It's fucking ridiculous. I think that beyond like just the cucking that happened to Trump, I think that this is like this. I don't even know how to like. To me, one of the first people that they killed in that strike was the negotiator, Iran's nuclear negotiator. One of the first people they killed. So their intention couldn't be any more clear, right? That they don't want peace. They want to undermine this deal. They want to undermine Trump's diplomacy. That's what they want. They want war. They've been pushing for war for fucking decades. So I don't know how the fuck I'm gonna go fucking crazy. Okay, one of the things that drove me nuts, right, is after the attack, I saw these fucking representatives on Twitter pray for Israel. Oh, Israel's bombing around. Pray for Israel. Like what the fuck? But like they're the ones attacking. They're the ones attacking, like, and you're saying pray for Israel? Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, it's so insane to me that this is the way that our nation functions right now, the world functions right now. So, Gibbs, I'm sorry, I don't want to, like, jump on you in, like, my opening, but to just, like, respond to this general idea that Iran is, like, a global funder of, like, terror or whatever the fuck. So, it's true that I think they created Hezbollah. They do fund Hezbollah. They did this in response to the Israeli invasion of Lebanon. They fund Hamas because they support Palestinian liberation. They've made that very clear. Made that very clear for a very long time, right? So I think that the issue and position them as like destabilizers of this fucking region. If you look at every major conflict in that region, every destabilizing event in that region for the last like 30 fucking years has said the U.S. and Israel all fucking over it, including the fucking the ousting of the original the guy who was there before the Shah. I forget his name, who the U.S. and the U.K. Overthrew with the CIA and MI6 because he nationalized their oil, and BP was really upset about this.
Was the deck or something?
I believe so. So he nationalized oil in Iran. Really upset about this. This company was really upset about this. So the U.S. and the U.K. overthrew him, put in the Shah, who was a very fucking brutal dictator, who had secret police who would torture the civilian population, which is what led these people to run to the fucking religious nutbags. Right? So like, all of this is like, it just feels like it should be clear by now that our involvement there is bad. Not just for us, but for them, for the fucking planet. And we should stop doing it. Like I don't know how it could be any more clear.
You don't get any of the death to America without the
one thing. Which is thank you, Sean, for gifting a membership on YouTube. Sean always does it like every broadcast, so thank you so much. And if you got YouTube super chats out there, you want to throw them in, very much appreciate them to anyone out there, or Twitch subscriptions or whatever. Consider supporting the channel that way. Back to you guys.
So like in that region, you don't get death to America without overthrowing Iran, trying to do that, and then without our support of Israel, which is the displacement of the people that were already in the land. Like, you just don't get death to America without these two things. There's no reason for it outside of that.
Let me ask you a question. How many here people believe in Urbo? Just raise your hand.
Urbo?
International
I don't know
Rules-Based.
what Urbo
I
is.
know ICAO does. The rest of y'all believe in
Hold
that?
on. Yes, but I think this is
go ahead.
another reason we should actually be
Okay.
supporting Iran in this. to be honest with you.
Okay, cool. Here's my deal. Urbo is total bullshit.
Trump's insulting Tucker Carlson right now.
It's literally leading to World War III. Urbo is. It's total bullshit. We see this all the time. Russia didn't respect Urbo, and that's why everybody's so mad about Ukraine, right? Oh God, they're invading their sovereign nation. Oh, boo. But hey, we're totally fine when our ally Rwanda does it to Russia back to Congo, right? Cool, no problem, right? And now I know some people like Scott, he actually has a moral for it, dude. He's gonna sit there and say all this is bad. But me, I don't have that. I'm gonna say don't give a shit. So here's my deal. When I'm sitting here seeing Iran funding all these terror groups, I don't give a fuck. They're attacking our people. They're attacking Israel. They're attacking Timbuktu. They attack everybody. They're fucking evil people. The whole country's evil. If they don't want to be evil, then they should overthrow their leadership and join the American Revolution as a new state, an oil-producing one, much like Texas. That's really the simplest facts here. I don't give two fucks about, hey, who we backed and y'all are calling Israel a liability. You know what's a liability? Picking a loser. Israel's beating that ass like a $2 whore. I can't believe that y'all are sitting here going, liability. Looks like they're beating everybody's ass. Oh, I heard from, what was that guy's name? The fucking, I can't remember his name now, but he always spurs out our wigs. I heard from that guy for weeks, months. Oh, Israel gonna get their ass beat by Hamas. Hamas got their ass beat. They're gonna get their ass beat by Hezbollah. They got their ass beat. Iran's going to beat their ass. The new Iranian Caliphate's going to start. Iran barely exists, and they only exist because Trump told them, hey, don't kill the prophet. And then Trump basically is sitting here. Y'all saying he got cut. Trump is the only reason right now that Iran still has its leadership. Tomorrow, he can be like, you know what, gloves off, take him out. And guess what? Iran ceases to exist as a functioning country, and it's going to be crazy. But y'all are sitting here, we picked the loser in this? Nope, sorry. We picked the big dog in the area, and those big dogs are Saudi Arabia and Israel. Saudi Arabia is so cucked by Israel that they're letting them do whatever the fuck they want. I hope that Turkey and Israel split Syria and we just get rid of international rules-based order. Maybe Israel can also expand their borders to, I don't know, Baghdad. They can take it over. They can take over the Persian capital, Tehran, as well.
It'll happen in like 3 or 4 days,
It'll happen maybe in a few years. And then we can just have new American
few
oil
years,
companies.
yes.
I hope they do, because I'm so sick of
years.
y'all keep talking. Hold on, y'all keep talking about
You're
how
so
how-
unserious.
No, I'm absolutely 100% serious.
I
We
usually
need-
don't call you unserious,
You know
like
what's
you're being-
unserious?
like
I'm gonna be
you're
serious.
serious.
All right, I'm just gonna lay all the cards on the table.
We should go take
take
you know what's
one's
unserious?
oil.
You know what's
True.
unserious? You know what's
Let Gibbs go,
unserious?
let Gibbs
I'll
go.
tell you what's unserious. This idea that people that have been killing each other for thousands of years are suddenly going to start
Oh,
being
boy.
buddies. The 2-day solution shit doesn't work. I'm sorry. Just let them all fight it out. We'll see who's the winner, and then we can pick that side, and we'll just start moving in it with capitalism again. That's what we should do. Let them fight.
That's
Israel
what-
clearly
that's what
doesn't
me
need
and
our
Doobie are
help.
saying.
They're finna beat the shit out of fucking Iran. No, y'all are saying back Iran. They're beating the shit out of. Let them all kill each other. How are you going
We
to sit
never
here and
do
say
that,
you're
though.
pro Ukraine, and then you're going to sit
We
here and
never
say
do that.
we shouldn't fight? We shouldn't stop Israel
We never
from
sit
taking on
back
Iran.
and see
It's
which
ridiculous.
one's going to win because
Yeah, we
as
should
soon
pick the
as
winner.
Israel looks like they're going to lose something, we step in. So that's always. It's
Oh
not
yeah,
just sit back and
okay,
see
all
who-
right, sure.
If you want
buddy.
to sit back and see who wins, cut off aid and see what happens. It's
I
not
mean,
Yeah, Gibbs,
not
like
gonna
Gibbs.
happen.
That's not
Gibbs,
gonna
the
happen because
reason
Israel-
Israel's been pushing the U.S. to join them in this for fucking 30 years now is because they know they can't overwhelm Iran by themselves. They don't have the longevity. They don't have the resources. They just don't. Not without the U.S. backing them. Which
well,
is
they
why
can
there's
team up with
a
Saudis.
ton of pressure on Trump right now to get involved. Because
Dude,
long term
Why
they
we
can't
actually- we just
overwhelm
sent
Iran.
A bunch of refueling planes and an aircraft carrier to the region specifically because we might have to
Well,
go
you
in.
notice the Saudis are backing off quite a bit. They like tangibly said it was bad, and then they're like, ha 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 ha, this is great, we're winning.
I went so of course. Well, I mean, they're enemies of Iran.
Yeah, so why don't they just split it with the Saudis?
We have Scott. Oh my God. We have Scott
Yeah.
and Lactoid. So, but I just want to say something quickly before then. So I don't want people to forget this, right? And I haven't seen this for whatever reason. I think maybe because there's just been so many outrages that people seem to have forgotten this, right? But like, this is the second time in like a year Israel has bombed Tehran, right? Like the last time they bombed Tehran was when they bombed the house or the apartment that was holding the Hamas peace negotiator, right? So they killed the peace
Well, that wasn't
negotiator.
Iran, but yeah.
They killed the peace negotiator. Sorry, what did you say?
Yeah, that was in Lebanon, but it was an
No, it's
Iranian.
I was looking at this. I just brought it up. It was in Tehran.
I
thinking
remember
of a different
being in
bomb.
Iran.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. I know they also bombed the consulate in Damascus. I think it was.
Yes.
Oh no, not
yeah,
the
yeah.
consulate in
That's what you're thinking about.
Damascus, where the,
Yeah, so
where
there were
the
two separate
Iranian
bombs.
generals
Yeah.
were hiding out.
Yeah, Ismail
Bloody,
Hania
oh, no.
was in Iran. He was in Tehran.
Yeah, he was in Tehran. But there was another separate bombing that you're referring to, Aiko. But in any
Yeah.
case, the point is that they did that, and remember Tehran? They sent, and I believe it was in response to this. Maybe I'm getting this wrong, but in response, they sent the drones, the slow moving drones,
Yeah.
right? That were easily picked off, and Israel took that as some sort of big win. Right, at least that's how they painted it to the public. Well, like we suffered pretty much no damage, right? They were so impotent, we were so great when they had multiple countries blasting these slow-moving drones, specifically done right so Iranians could say we did something because they were doing everything they could not to escalate to a wider war, right? And so it's weird. It's fucking weird. Right, when I'm constantly hearing how barbaric our Muslim brothers and sisters are, right, how warlike they are, when I keep seeing people from the West, right, I see nations from the West going to the Middle East, starting wars, colonizing the West, the European nations, colonizing the world. I see Israel following their footsteps, right, in that region, constantly setting the region on fire, right. But the Muslims are barbaric. You see, people you just can't trust.
We're war
You know?
hungry.
The motherload, the motherload of bad ideas, right? Islam. When I see Christians constantly and Jews constantly like turning the region into a sea of flames all the time, and once again now.
Wait,
It's like,
so-
yeah, I can't fucking
So
stand hearing that.
are y'all pro LGBTQ genocide? Is that what you're saying? Y'all are pro LGBT
Yes,
genocide?
yes, yes,
Got it,
yes,
got it.
yes, yes.
Yes,
They can. Yes.
Got it.
Got it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we
Hold
got
on,
here. and
Gibbs,
so hold on,
Gibbs,
hold on,
the
hold on,
Republicans
hold on,
about 10
hold
years
on,
ago.
hold on, hold on,
We
hold
got
on,
gay
hold on.
rights
We got
fucking 7
hold on,
years
hold
ago,
on.
and you guys won't shut the fuck
hold on.
up
We got
about
we
gay
actually so
people
hold
and
on.
the-
We
and
didn't
and the
hold on.
Republicans fight.
So-
Hold on,
fucking
we
ass.
hold on. We got no.
So a
we,
couple
hold
of-
on. We didn't
a couple
endorse
of points
anything
of
today, but we
clarification.
did endorse a gay genocide. That's what we endorsed today
Yo,
on this
how
panel.
did-
Gibbs, the Republican Party and the
Alright,
Democrat
so-
Party were fighting these
Alright, Doobie.
LGBT
Alright,
rights
Doobie.
for fucking decades.
Yeah,
like
because
up until like
hold
10,
on,
15
hold
years
on,
ago.
hold on,
Like,
this is
so-
bullshit.
fighting it
Hold
now.
on.
Yeah,
Gay
we're
people
yelling-
were rounded
we're
up and
yelling-
killed here in America. Don't even try to equate it. We weren't taking the homosexuals and shooting them in the back of the head or punishing them with 34 to 100 lashes their first offense. We weren't taking lesbians and killing them with 100 lashes in a public square. You know what country does do that? Fucking Iran. Don't tell me they're not barbaric. They're evil pieces of shit. This is literally the evil empire.
Wait, hold on.
Okay,
Is your
that most of the people
hold on,
are
against.
hold on,
Yes,
hold on,
true.
hold on. So, couple of just this is really not even arguments, just points of clarification. So first of all, Islam is the motherlode of bad ideas. Just because other
I knew
people
you were
are
gonna
also
say
bad
it.
doesn't mean that Islam isn't a fucking horrible religion. So that's number one. Number two, yeah, I mean, you're correct that, you know, some of the horrific things that have happened in Muslim countries and are happening to this day to women, is something that like we should deeply be against. If you have any sort of like liberal or beliefs, or you just believe in human rights, but also like, let's not pretend that like even in the 1970s, police were watching gay nightclubs burn, and and the firefighters weren't going in to save people because it was only the FAGs dying. Like let's not pretend that like our horrible treatment of LGBT people is like that far behind us, right?
It's totally
It's like
the same.
only like
Totally the
50
same.
years ago that we were doing some rough stuff, right? But you're right that it wasn't out in the open. It was like it was a dirty secret as opposed to something that like our actual, like supported. So that's a little bit. Second, I just want to point out, I hope I'm wrong. I'm not even saying that I think I'm right here. I'm just pointing out, since we brought up the ship that we're sending the USS Nimitz, which was scheduled for decommission, right? And then all of a sudden we got a 13-month increase for its usage. And like, I'm just saying, if that ship gets attacked, the one that we were already going to get rid of is the one that gets attacked, and all of a sudden we have to go to war now, your fucking radar should be screaming blatantly loud that
brilliant.
like, because nothing will make you crazy. Nothing will make you sound crazier than just knowing 5 things the CIA has admitted to doing, right? So I'm just saying, be wary there.
Yeah.
And then the last point of clarification, Admiral Gibbs, you brought it up, and like, I'm not attacking you when I say this. It's just, this is an important thing to understand the region, because so many people hear a phrase and they misunderstand what's occurring, which is, oh, we fight wars for oil. We fight wars for oil. Oh, they have oil. We should take their oil. America doesn't give a fuck about oil in the Middle East. We don't need oil. We don't need to procure oil. We would not be any wealthier if we took over the oil. We would actually almost certainly lose wealth because it would cost money defending oil. When people say we fight wars for oil, or start talking about how oil is so important, it's because in 1971, Nixon took us off of backing the US dollar by gold. And very quickly in 1972, we started working with using the US dollar being the reserve currency. And eventually in 1974, we reached a deal with Saudi Arabia that they would trade oil in the US dollar. Now, why is that important? The reason is this allows us to have somewhere around 2 trillion US dollars out of the American economy and held by other countries. And those countries, if they want to buy and sell oil from a lot of these other regions, especially OPEC plus, they need to use the US dollar. So what does that mean? That means that they keep that money doesn't go back into the American economy. So when we have inflation, we are able to move our inflation to other countries, as opposed to having hyperinflation in this country and other people just using a different currency. They're forced to use the US dollar in order to purchase and sell oil, which means that we can export our inflation, and it also allows us to have an economy where we have such a large trade deficit. So when a country like Iran is not using the US dollar and is using a different currency to engage in oil exchanges with China and Russia, and if that continues, that is a threat to the entire American economy. If that, and then by the way, that deal ran out last year in June. Okay, Saudi Arabia, unless we make a new deal, is not required to use the US dollar in order to trade oil. So we're not fighting so that we can gain access to oil. We're fighting to stop people from selling oil in a different currency, which is a threat to the entire American
I got a question
economy.
I got a question for you, Fabian. All right, so say you have a country, it exists. Let's just say, I don't know, their name is Rand. We'll call them Rand for no particular reason. And they trade in, I don't know what they trade in. We'll call it pesos. They're trading in pesos in some random place in the middle of the world between the East and the West. And they have oil. And they're trading this other country. Suddenly, another country, we'll call it Rael, decides to come in and wipe the leadership in the country basically off the map. What currency now does this non-existent country trade in?
Almost certainly United States dollar.
Oh, okay, cool. That's what I thought. So yeah, it is about oil. That's what I thought we were going to have to get.
Okay, I know, but fuck you. Like, I just explained how they fucking the failures in the way of which the U.S. economy works and what that phrase actually means. I'm just saying it doesn't matter about the actual oil in the ground. In fact, America knows that that's why we have a big oil reserve, and it's also why there's a lot of limitations on how much oil, new oil rigs occur in America. We could totally be self-sufficient and have all our own oil and export a bunch of oil, but we don't. We want to be careful because we want to maintain the power that we have of all of the oil in the Middle East being traded in the US dollar. Because the moment that stops, we get hyperinflation and we can't export.
But you're admitting if this country economy ceases to exist and a new country takes over, they're more than likely going to trade in the US dollar, right?
Yes.
Okay, well then that problem solved. All right, cool.
Okay.
Let's go to our friend.
Again, I said it was a point of clarification to explain the process, and it seems like you're trying to get a dub here.
I'm not trying to get a dub. I'm actually like feeding off your point is that this country is evil piece of shit. They're committing genocide on mass scale. They've caused terrorism all the world. They know they don't follow any of the Geneva Conventions. They sit here and go, "Oh my God, these terrorists!"
What genocide?
What genocide? You're talking about
Israel or
no? It's Iran is committing the gay genocide. I mean, it's crazy. All these lefties here.
Gay genocide.
And I'm the only one sitting here standing up for the LGBT community.
I mean, to be fair,
they literally are lashing people to death.
You really care about them.
Oh yeah, I do care about them. I don't care about
the
everybody.
virtue signal is
I'm not
strong,
virtue.
right?
It's just
motivation.
I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy, and then
Not
I'm pointing
your
out the
Lockheed
economic.
Martin stuff.
But what's funny though, what's funny to me is these people commit terrorism all
Pakistani
over the world, and we just go.
games,
They just
you
go,
know?
oh God, we didn't do it directly. Just the guys that we have our generals talking to in their leadership doing this. In Africa attacking this, or in this country.
Yeah, America does that too.
Well, cool, but we're the superpower, so fuck them. So guess what? They don't get to exist no more because we're the superpower.
now.
The UN doesn't have. Well, we're going to keep staying the superpower because what happened? Iran's our enemy, and now they're getting their ass beat by our B team, which is Israel.
Let's go Lactoid.
I mean, I'll agree that Israel is beating their ass. I think that it's incredible how capable Mossad is and how capable the Israeli military is for how small the country is. I understand it's a very militarized country, but still, I mean, the fact that since October 7th, when they were attacked, they've completely operationally eliminated Hamas and Hezbollah. The Houthis are, I guess, not. I don't know how effective they are really, but I mean, they've been irrelevant for a little bit, just in terms of how they can affect Israel. Yeah, they'll shoot a missile every once in a while, but then that gets shot down by Israel. And then
But they didn't stop the Houthis. And the Houthis,
they haven't eliminated the Houthis. They're still there, but I'm saying that I don't think the Houthis have posed much of a threat to Israel compared to
they're posing blockades.
the blockades what they've been doing. Yeah,
but
I get what you're saying. Sorry.
Yeah, haven't they stopped that since U.S. warships have bombed the ship?
No, they haven't. They reinstated the blockades.
Just now because of the
U.S. They stopped on U.S. ships.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty good.
Well,
I
yeah,
guess. I'll talk more about the Houthis when I learn more about the Houthis.
No, it's really simple. It's like when everybody in the UN votes for something that they don't actually believe because they know America will veto it on the Security Council, and then it's like America was the only country that voted this way. Aren't they crazy? Like where they all voted to make housing or food,
water. I think it was water or food or something. Yeah.
Right, and it's like a bunch of countries don't believe that commie garbage nonsense. Food is obviously not a human right. You'd have to be retarded to think that,
Amen.
or extremely ideologically indoctrinated.
Amen.
But they know that America will fucking vote against it. So then they're like, oh, well, it's the same thing with the Houthis going after Israeli ships. It's like we know that the goods are just going to be on different ships, and then they're like, but we're stopping the Israelis. They don't really have any real effect on their economy.
that's not
and they would
true.
have hyper-
Okay, I don't want to
Yeah,
get
that's
bogged
not
down
true.
into. I don't want to get bogged down specifically in movies. Maybe
one of these
the Houthis
ports
are
went into
particularly
bankruptcy over this blockade. Like they actually have had an effect.
Exactly.
Maybe the
yeah.
maybe the
What's the,
Houthis have been.
what's the inflation rate?
Oh god.
What's the inflation rate in Israel since they started?
I have no fucking idea.
Yeah,
What I'm telling
They had
you,
a real
But I'm
effect.
telling you, as well, hold on. But I think one of Israel's biggest ports going bankrupt.
Lactoid.
And reported they've lost like 85% of their imports is like a big effect, right?
Yeah.
And they've actually shifted recently to Israel's main port. I think they said like last week or the week before. They're now going to start blockading that port. So I think they have had an impact.
Yeah.
I mean, like you can measure the impact by the inflation rate.
Or the fact that they're not getting goods, like that too, right?
You can also
One-
measure
one
the
or other, I
impact
suppose.
by the ass whipping that Iran's
but-
taken, which is
Okay,
substantial.
So,
so-
let's go to. Sorry, I did interrupt our friend Lactoid. I apologize.
It's all good.
I
May-
interrupted
I'll,
first, my
I'll,
bad.
I'll read more about the Houthis to know exactly how that interplays here because I'm not as educated on that. Maybe I spoke out of turn, but I know that when you're looking at Hezbollah and Hamas, they have been essentially decapitated here by the Israeli military. And then when Big Bad Iran gets involved, right, because Israel launches strikes on them, it's again disproportionate in favor. Like the casualties are disproportionately in favor of Israel. The strategic hits are in favor of Israel disproportionately. It's wild. Like this is an incredibly capable military. So capable, in fact, that America shouldn't get involved. It seems odd to me how there's a lot of people. I rightfully talk about the Ukraine-Russia conflict. And I think this is a little bit different because while Ukraine is obviously the bad guy in that conflict, in this conflict, it's a little bit more, I guess, gray in terms of who's actually the bad guy and who's actually the good guy. But a lot of people were agreeing with me about not funding Ukraine, not necessarily because of all like the millions of details that I brought up, but because, yeah, America shouldn't be involved in funding all these foreign wars. We shouldn't get involved in this. This is a bad idea. America first. Our money should go to Americans. We don't have enough time. We got to take care of our own. We don't have the money to be world police anymore. And then Israel enters the conversation. We got money. We got money. In fact, we have bombs. And Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. And now Tucker Carlson is catching flack from Trump on Truth Social for criticizing the idea of bombing Iran. And I don't know. I think that when Gibbs said before, he pointed out the hypocrisy of Democrats, like being super in favor of funding Ukraine, but then like not being in favor of this. I think the hypocrisy sort of works both ways a little bit. Like, especially when your basis is no foreign wars. Like, why are we not applying this to? I mean,
Well,
unless
that's
you
not
would
the
argue this
Republican
truly
basis.
is like a special case
discovering?
scenario.
Are you discovering live right now on
Well,
the stream
that's not the
that
Republican
all of our
basis.
politicians are bought and paid for and live?
I'm not even talking about politicians. Hold on, just to be fair, a lot of the Twitter accounts are actually criticizing Trump for this, right? But like Tucker Carlson, for example,
Yeah.
he's obviously not bought and paid for it because he's being pretty consistent here.
Tucker
And then you
Carlson, you mean?
Tucker Carlson, and then you have
Carlson. Qatar pays him.
Trump has a new nickname for him, the kooky Tucker Carlson. This guy was a staunch.
I'm just
this
saying.
guy was a
Anytime
staunch
anyone,
Trump
I'm just
ally.
saying. Anytime anyone's been opposing like Israel and like or like joining Israel, it's been like Qatar's paying these people.
Yeah,
Like,
I
Qatar
know,
pays
I know.
Qatar
I
funding
know,
every
hold on,
single
Lactoid,
university.
hold on,
in America.
Lactoid,
They're
hold on,
keeping-
hold on,
they're
Lactoid,
keeping
Lactoid, hold on.
Qataris.
Can I
It's
say
like,
one thing? Tucker Carlson lost his job because he was defending Donald Trump during his fucking election scam allegations during that first term.
But hold on.
And this guy has the nerve. Talk about like you want loyalty and you do this to Tucker Carlson. What the fuck?
Well, hold on,
There's no
Lactoid,
such
hold
thing
on,
as
Lactoid.
loyalty as far as
Hold
Trump is
on,
concerned.
hold on, Lactoid. You're missing the point here. Like, maybe some Republicans think that, kind of what you did. There's no hypocrisy on my side. I've been upfront about, hey, let's fund them all and make some fucking money. But what I am saying is that, like, if we're going to sit here and talk about this bullshit, let's be honest, Fabian actually hit the nail on the head when he talked about, Trump's not moving away from no new wars. He's trying to establish the new American empire, move us towards that. And so guess what? Iran, I hate to break it to you guys, multipolarity bad. Iran's one of these members of BRICS, one of these members that are adversarial power. They're not our buddies, no matter what the leftists think they can sit here and do. These guys are committing a genocide. There's a bunch of organizations that are sitting here listing Iran as one of the worst human rights violators of all time, especially in regards to gay people. So guess what? When you're going to sit here trying to take a moral high ground and talk about Iran, all you're sitting here doing is saying you hate homosexuality, you hate gay people, and I never want to see you sit here and advocate for any more gay rights shit because you are an evil piece of shit every time you support Iran. Now, that's the fact. No, that's a fact. It's a fact. It's an inalienable fact.
I don't care what your
Hold on,
thoughts
hold
are.
on, hold on, hold on, hold on.
Where's your
Here's,
flag?
hold on.
Where's
One
your
last thing
flag?
here. One last thing. It's not that. Yeah, some Republicans got confused when we were sitting in No New Wars. We're talking about no new wars that benefit us. That we're just wasting the money. We are talking about protecting the American interest. That's why he's talking about making the American military lean, green, and efficient, and not sitting here making it bloated with fat and DEI hires and all this baby back bullshit. That's what we're talking about, and that's why. Hey, guess what? We're gonna keep funding Israel because they're whooping that ass. Why do we want to pick up the side that's a fucking loser? They're fucking losers that kill people for sport. It's crazy.
One question to you. Is your only argument, because I'm assuming you're against giving more money to Ukraine, is your only argument is that they're
Pro
that's
money to
right, you're in favor of
everybody.
giving them
He
even
wants to
more
fund
money.
all of those
Okay,
sides.
yeah, my bad.
And so, like, if
That's
you're
a good one.
and there's a large segment of the Republican Party that backs this. So, like, when you're sitting here trying to apply it to all Republicans, no, you're talking about maybe like 40% when there's like about 30% that probably back what I'm saying, and there's probably another 20% that backs some totally other bullshit, which is like, no new wars, we're gay, we're scared of everything, we might as well just be rhinos.
I thought you wanted to defend gays. What the fuck?
Well, yeah, but see, they're consistent because they're leftists, and in actuality, they're pretending to be Republicans. That's the fact.
I like to
You
do
just
Admiral Gibbs. I like to do the opposite, which is talk to the wokies and just tell them that Islam is right about women. Like,
You know, that's a good
it's
one, too.
beautiful. They fucking break.
Yeah.
So
They don't know what to say. They're like, oh.
okay, I don't know why that would be the case, but all right, moving forward.
Well, just say Islam is right about women, and then see how left wing people respond. Like the wokies always break their mind because they don't want
Do you think
they don't want to say
Islam's right
that
about women and
Islam
gay people?
is a barbar right.
Do you think
they're right about-
Christianity is
you
right
think-
about women and
Like,
gay
let's go. What do you
people?
think Christianity is about women, or fucking Judaism?
No,
What do you
we're
think
not
these
talking about
religions say
Christianity,
about
but
women?
Christianity is
Well,
great for gay
hold
people
on,
and
hold
women,
on.
right? And
I didn't know
slaves
Israel
for
was
that
Christian.
matter,
Hold
right?
on,
Like,
Israel's Jewish. Iran's Muslim.
do be getting mad about his whataboutism proving me right.
No, hold on. I'm not getting mad. I'm telling you, like you speak about Islam as if it's like this special evil or something. All these Abrahamic religions are shit. So I don't know why you focus
Well,
on
that's
Islam so much.
I mean, because Islam is obviously worse, and to say
No, it's
to say
not.
that
Why is it worse?
retarded.
Why is it worse? If followed to their actual
Okay.
tenets, why is it
Hold
worse?
on. What country uses America lash women to death in public?
I'll just give a couple of examples, right?
Mhm.
So, Islam is the only major Abrahamic religion where, you can be put to death for leaving the religion. Apostasy is not a crime in Christianity. It's not a crime under Judaism.
Tell that to
Okay.
Jan Hus.
Not anymore. It's not.
Islam believes that it is right to lie. You can maybe
Wait,
make
who's
the
Jan
argument about
Hus?
Judaism, but you can't make that argument against Christianity.
Wait, believes it's right
I
to
don't-
lie?
like,
Takia,
Yes.
he's in Takia.
yeah,
hold on.
you can,
So
you
even
can
though-
lie in
something.
a politically disadvantageous position.
Yeah, in order to avoid
if
death.
it's going to
true, based.
in order
Wait,
to
hold on.
avoid death, or
Aiko.
in order to avoid, like political power and things that it's okay to lie.
So can you give actual
here's another one.
reasons?
So
Wait, hold on. Can
yeah,
I, Scott?
How about this? How about this? That a woman's word is only worth half that of a man's in court.
It's based
hold
as fuck. Why is that?
True,
a problem?
actually, but hold on.
That's why you say Islam is right about women, and then they go,
Hold
"What
on,
are you
I wanna
talking
stick on-
about? How
okay.
dare you not?"
So
how
we
dare
should be
you say
supporting
that?"
Iran, right?
Yeah, hold on, but you can like Christianity, which is the women shouldn't be able to teach, that women should shut up and be subservient to men, et cetera, et cetera. Like, come on. But Aiko,
Oh, so that is not the same thing.
Stop,
It is not the
stop,
same thing if you're
stop,
having a
listen,
criminal trial
listen,
that a
listen.
woman's
Wait,
word
I'm trying to
that
answer-
woman needs additional
trying to
evidence and
ask Aiko a
things.
question.
That's not the same thing as women.
Let me ask Aiko.
Didn't the content creator get beheaded just because she was promiscuous in Iran recently? Oh yeah, they did. That did happen.
Oh yeah, and the Christians have never beheaded anybody.
Oh yeah, well,
I
cool.
get it.
Yeah, maybe before.
hold on,
man.
so
Hold
Aiko.
on,
When was
hold
the
on, hold
last
on.
Christian-
Not before. Currently, all over Africa, they're fundamentalist Christians.
That's cool,
Who-
dude.
who-
Nobody's
hold on,
talking about fucking
hold on,
Africa.
who are pushing
When
that
did the last
direction by
American do that?
evangelical American Christians who are beheading people, killing gay people, doing
cool.
cracktive rape to lesbians.
Isn't
Like,
Andrew
what the fuck are you
Wilson
talking
trying
about?
Hold on. Let me
repeal
ask
the
you a question,
19th?
Doobie. When's the last time
Where is that in the
America
Bible?
publicly
Where's in the Bible that
lashed
says
or
to
stoned
behead
a woman to
people for
death? When's the last time we did that? For adultery. When's the last time we did that? Publicly executed
Wait,
a
in
woman.
America?
In America. When's the last time we did that?
Fuck, I don't know.
Oh, cool.
Hold on.
Because I don't
But-
give two
hold on.
fucks about these third world countries. That's total bullshit.
yes,
Third world
Gibbs,
countries
Christians
against
are
third
less
world.
Christian. That's really what it is.
Gibbs. So is your issue then that they have like they've extended the death penalty to things that you don't believe deserve the death penalty when you've come on here repeatedly to advocate for fucking genocide and the bombing of children,
whataboutism?
and suddenly
here we
you have
go.
this
At least
moral
I'm
fucking hang
consistent.
up
At least I'm
about
consistent.
about them having a law that you
What
disagree with,
about
Scott.
them, okay?
Like what the fuck are you talking
I've
about?
also advocated that, hey, we should
just
celebrate
virtually
some
I'm
laws.
very
Let's
about
let
it,
them
though.
out.
I made a very simple claim. The simple claim is that the reason I have a special ire against Islam is that I believe Islam is the worst of the three. That doesn't mean that I think Christianity is the most base thing ever. I'm an objectivist in my framework. I don't like Christianity and I don't like Judaism and I don't like any of the Abrahamic religions. Okay. But yes, I think some are worse than others. And then when I gave you reasons, you chimed in with whataboutism and then you demanded answers. And then I gave you a couple of examples and then you do more whataboutism and then you shift to Admiral Gibbs. Just admit that Islam is a little fucking worse than the other religions.
No, hold on.
It's okay.
Scott,
It's not a fucking
we sell weapons to both
religion.
sides, though. So
Scott,
I mean,
hold on,
you don't got
Scott.
nothing on you there.
So, hold on, Gibbs, one second. So, Scott, I don't agree that Islam is worse. I think Islam's bad in terms of like the religious beliefs. I think it's as bad as Christianity. I would say Christianity is a little better. I think Christianity is like, of the three Abrahamic religions, Christianity is the least bad, but it's still really fucking bad. I would say that Judaism is the worst. Absolutely the worst. Like Judaism allows for little girls who've been raped at like I think after 3 years old to be forced to marry their rapists. Like it's a pretty fucked up religion, right? It's this built-in ethnic. Hold on. That's fine. Yeah, I can do that for you.
Like,
hold on. No, Gibbs, you didn't hear what I said. I'm not talking about arranged child marriages. I'm talking about a 3-year-old little girl gets raped, and that little girl is forced to marry her rapist. That's what I'm talking about.
So you're saying in Judaism,
don't some sects use like the blood
for
sucking too as well, like out of the penis?
Yes.
I don't
They
believe
do
that.
circumcision by mouth.
Hold on. Yeah, actually,
that's a
the baby
gross
dick sucking.
medical
Yeah, pretty
practice.
gross. That's not a medical
It's a
practice.
gross.
It's a religious practice.
Dude, look, I'm not.
It's a medical practice.
I think female genital mutilation done by
medical
Muslims
is
is
very
wrong.
strong
I think
air
Hold on, but
circumcision
second the blood
is
at baby dick is
Yeah,
a
but
medical practice.
Yeah, I mean, third world
But it's-
countries
I
got
mean,
third world. So I
look,
don't know
Shifted
what we're
right
talking
away
about.
when they got Judaism.
That happens in New York, Gibbs. Gibbs, that happens in New York.
Well, cool,
Again,
cool.
again,
You're not gonna get me on
again.
this one. I don't give two fucks. I've said many times. Let's sell weapons to both sides and let them kill each other. Fuck it. Like I don't give a shit about that. I tell you what I do give a shit about is when you're gonna sit here and try to give me this moral high ground. When I'm sitting here going, these guys are bad. They're bad. They're evil empire. Can you tell me with a straight face that Iran is not our adversary? And like you're acting like 60 or 70 years of fucking history and just
Hold on.
go out the
Yeah,
window and we
Gibbs.
suddenly support them. Get real.
Gibbs.
They're a snake in the grass.
Why are they our
Eliminate them.
adversary?
Because
Gibbs,
they're
they
evil.
are adversary because we made them our adversary. We fucked them over all the fucking
Good,
time.
let's
We've been
fuck them
in
over
the
some
Middle
more.
East for decades.
Yeah,
No,
like-
stop. Hold on, but no, we're getting away from the Scott. Just really quick. Okay. So in addition to that, so I'll gladly pull that up for you, Scott. No problem. In addition to this, Judaism also calls for the killing of idolaters, which is Christians, by the way. If there are plenty of religious Jews who will tell you that idolaters should be killed for being idolater. It also allows for the enslavement of
Is that different? Is that different than Islam or Christianity?
Yes.
How is that different?
Hold on. Do you think that Islam and Christianity call for the murder of like non-Christians and non-Muslims?
Well, Islam specifically calls for the enslavement of all non-Muslims.
That's not true.
And then it absolutely is true. And you can it depending on like what hadith and how you interpret it, which I think actually is a strength.
Religion.
I think it's actually a strength of Islam, right? That there is like, you can add context, like an imam can add context by different interpretations from the hadith. I think that is one of the few strengths of Islam. But it's going to be arguable about like if you're taking excerpts out of context. I want to see the context, right? Because again, this happens in Islam all the time as well. I'm talking about things that are in the Quran, right? Not some other interpretation versus in the Old Testament and the New Testament. Like if you have like some debate or arguments in rabbinical Judaism, yeah, you're going to see some horrible shit there. But I think you can see via practice as well as actual tenets of the religion itself, whether or not one is worse than the other. Like Israel has more power, so yeah, Israel is doing more evil shit because states do evil shit. But if you're asking me which religion is worse, and you're saying, oh, I have this rabbinical Jew, this dialogue where they're debating about one thing or another. And
Israel's
the
chief
shit that's
rabbi said it's
similar
okay
to
to
what
rape
other
women in
fucking
war.
things are doing.
Hold on. Israel's chief rabbi said that it's fine for soldiers to rape women in war. Like,
Where-
this is
And
not-
Iran's
this is
former
not-
president said
But
we should not-
that is also
Hold on,
that is
Iran's
also
former
from
president said we should
okay.
move
That's
Jerusalem.
from
We're
fucking
gonna
Talmud.
take
It's like, please,
quotes.
like they,
We're gonna take
no,
quotes
not
from
just
religious
quotes,
people.
not
If
just
we're gonna
quotes.
do
We saw
that,
this play out. We
Islam
saw this play out when
can
Israel,
fucking do
when
that.
these IDF soldiers were on camera gang raping a fucking guy, and they were defended by
on.
Israelis. There's a fucking right to defend them.
Do you believe nuking
Like, what do
a
you
city
mean?
is
How
bad?
is
Hold
that?
on,
How is
Yuki,
that
do you
some
believe-
unique shit
hold on.
from Islam?
Hold on, do you believe
Like
nuking a
imams
city is
haven't
bad,
said
Yuki?
horrendous shit.
I mean, the separation between goyim and non-goyim, right? Like,
Yeah, it's
you can
like
rape the goyim,
ethnic
you can
supremacy
do
is
these
built
things,
into
you can lie,
religion.
you can lie to goyim, you can impose
steal
interest
from
and
them,
tax
and kill
on goyim,
them.
so on and so forth. But like, you know,
Hold on, Iran's
none of these
multiple
things are evil,
Iranian
right?
No,
Hold on,
like, Scott,
these
Scott,
things-
Scott,
hold on,
for
multiple
example,
Iranian
Scott, I'll give you an
taxes-
example.
taxes isn't theft anymore. Taxes isn't theft anymore, and interest isn't theft
What the fuck are
anymore.
you talking about? I never. No, hold on. Pause. I am against all three religions. Right. I am obviously against Islam and its tax of the jizya. Okay. I am against Judaism.
Yeah,
and
the way you
Christianity
talk
as well.
about Islam only and specifically is, you know, you guys kind of give this little specific nudge. I mean, it works for the views. I get it, right? Having the Islamists in
It
your
works for the
DMs and
views.
in your chat
You-
fighting
you-
against
you
you.
really-
hold on. That's
You
why.
really hold on. Pause. Now you're going to accuse me, the ANCAP, that does nothing but bite bullets, as trying to grift on my
It was
audience
just a fun jab.
and like farm some like
Just a
dude,
fun jab.
There's
Okay.
so many other political ideologies and beliefs.
I don't think
that
it's that,
are
Scott. I don't think it's
beyond
that. I just think you ate the Islamophobia like fucking narrative after.
There's no
9/11.
such thing as Islamophobia. It's not.
That's fine.
be af-
That's fine.
to
Just
be
call it bigotry then.
afraid-
Call it bigotry
to be
then. Call it
afraid
bigotry then.
Of Islamia.
It's
to be afraid
phobia
of
is an
Islam
illusion as
is
well.
not-
And you are afraid of Islam taking over the U.S. You're afraid of that, but let's just call it bigotry.
Obviously, it's not bigotry to not want a evil religion to take over your homeland. That's not bigotry.
Let's
agree.
let's
Every
reframe
single
this
Muslim
slightly.
could become an apostate
Let's
today. It's a
reframe
choice.
this.
It's
Let's
not
go-
immutable. I'm not bigot because I don't
let's-
like their choice of choosing evil.
Let's reframe this slightly, okay? Because I started this off by making that comment about Islam, like being weird, calling Islam the motherlode of bad ideas, right? So as you all know, I hate them all, right? I hate them all. With my legendary talks of Aiko, right? Like I get very passionate about my feelings about religion. He can attest to my feelings there, right? And I am not part of the quote unquote wokies who can't criticize Islam because I don't know, because they're an oppressed class, and then that would short my brain out because I gotta defend them. It's no. Islam is awful, the way Judaism is awful, the way all the other ones are awful. Full of hypocrisy and lies and the whatnot, right? Okay, so let me slightly rephrase that so we can move past this point, right? My problem with what Gibbs was saying previously is framing. You know what? Let me not even talk specifically about Gibbs, right? Let's pull back, right? Because he brought up the evil empire and how these people are so dangerous. Well, I hear this framing often, and it's focused on Muslim nations, right? And my problem is thinking that Muslim people, I'm not going to talk about the religion, right? The religion is awful. How Muslim people are somehow specially barbaric, right? Especially untrustworthy.
Yeah, I wouldn't
right?
make that claim.
It have to be
I'm not
okay.
making
Great,
that claim.
great. So then we're already okay.
I'm making a
well,
different claim.
Yeah, I wouldn't make the claim that somebody is especially barbaric or whatever. They can be very civilized Muslim. I just think the ideology that you're choosing to espouse and represent is an evil ideology.
Agreed. Okay.
I'd
So-
like to
and-
clarify
and-
when you're done. Go ahead.
Okay, Gibbs, clarify right now.
So when I'm saying evil empire, I don't give a shit if they're Muslim. I don't care if they're Jewish. I don't care if they're American. I'm looking at it from an American perspective, right? These are our adversarial enemies. Russia, Iran, China, North Korea. These are like the known group of people working together to form a group outside the system that's evil. This is why I asked Doobie when I said, when's the last time America stoned a woman to death in the streets publicly for adultery or anything that can get you killed, like being a lesbian under Iran? Now, there's a reason why I'm not sitting here saying all Muslims and all this shit. I'm specifically pointing out that Iran is an evil, evil fucking country led by evil, evil people. The civilians probably not, but they're allowing it to continue, so they're just as guilty, in my opinion. And secondly, when I'm sitting here going, so when they're sitting here going, hey, we're going to sit here, allow all these things, and the lefties get up on their high horses, start to talk about Republican hypocrisy or Christian hypocrisy and all this shit. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I'm sorry. It's bullshit. Everybody's going to find a reason to kill each other. All this over shit over religion for many, many years. Yeah.
A quick question then on that, right? Do you think 9/11 was justified?
I mean, it depends. It depends, I think, to who you are. I think if you are an Al Qaeda member, it was probably justified. If you're a Taliban member, or Iranian, or maybe a person that grew up under Wahhabism, then probably is justified. If you're an American, then, not so much. You probably don't think it's justified at all, and then you think the country ass whipping we gave those countries is justified.
No,
so, I mean,
it's all is right. No.
Well, they're both right.
I get that different people have different perspectives. So, which one do you think is right?
Well,
do you think it was justified, considering what you just said? Do you think it was justified that 9/11 happened?
Well, this is maybe you're not gonna like this answer, but I would say once again the perspectives matter on this, and like in that case, I think our reaction to 9/11 was justified, and I'm not gonna sit here and pretend other countries aren't justified.
No.
Hold on. I'm not dodging. I'm answering it. You just don't like the answer. The answer is real simple. Yeah, these countries are justified doing whatever, and these individuals are justified doing whatever the fuck they want. And guess what? You're going to suffer the goddamn consequences when you do that if it's against our interest. And when you're sitting here going whether or not it's justified, what do I think? I think it doesn't fucking matter what I think. I think what matters is that our response is justified. That's what it is. If you want to attack us, cool. Was Japan justified us to bomb us in Pearl Harbor? Probably from their perspective. Were we justified of whooping their ass? Absolutely. Like when you're sitting here going, oh, these people are evil, and Dewey brings up Jewish leaders in fucking New York. Cool. Arrest them fuckers. I don't give a shit. When I bring up this Islam leaders in Iran that are sitting here stoning people to death, we need to bomb them. I'm sorry. You can't tell me when the multiple former presidents of Iran have said the minute they get a nuke, they're going to nuke Jerusalem. That's not fucking evil as shit. And then they say death to America. We should nuke them too. Good. They got to go. That country's got to go. That simple. It's not even more complicated than that.
I just want to point out Al Qaeda is like broader. It's Salafist, but like it's not Wahhabi. I know it's a weird distinction, but like some people might be getting real mad at you.
Unless America just literally does a global takeover, we're not good at regime changes in the middle. Yeah, I know, but we're not going to. That's not a real argument.
Over Afghanistan. We could. Sorry.
We absolutely did. What was the ratio in Iraq and Afghanistan?
We could barely hold Afghanistan.
Oh, we held it easily.
Barely hold Iraq. The blood and treasure we lost over those was enormous.
What was the KD ratio in Afghanistan?
Has Iran ever actually threatened to nuke Israel?
Yes, several times. Multiple presidents have.
I'm not finding it. When did they do that?
Israel said they have
to destroy Israel. But why the fuck wouldn't they? When Israel's been advocating for war with Iran for decades, like why wouldn't they say that?
Yeah, and it's like these two. It's our like we tried to overthrow the regime in Iran that didn't work. That's why we have the regime that we have today. Like I just don't understand like why it's so like the only reason these people hate us is because we intervene with them. If we don't intervene, they don't hate us. Like there's no reason. Like
this is why I explained the oil situation. Okay.
Yeah.
There's literally only if you're measuring success of U.S. operations in the Middle East
2005
by us being able to as us being able to establish liberal democracies or us being able to complete the mission as we said and told the American public what we were going to do, there's only been one success. It's Operation Provide Comfort. We were able to move the Kurds peacefully without any issues. That's it. Everything that we have done in the Middle East, every regime change, every war, everything that we've done from Libya to Yemen to Somalia. I mean, I don't know that Somalia is not really obviously Middle East, but predominantly Muslim country, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
Every single one of them has failed. But if you measure success as destabilizing regions so that a government that doesn't begin to sell oil via the yuan or via rubles to Russia, we have succeeded every single time. And what you have to understand is that America does not go in there to establish liberal democracies and do regime change. They tell you that that's what they want. What they want to do is cripple those countries so that Saudi Arabia is the major power player, and so that all of the world's oil is still traded in the US dollar, so that we can maintain our fucked up economy where we have a bad trade deficit and where the US dollar exports our inflation to the entire world. That is why it's regime change wars work great. It's just they're not actually trying to change the regime and set up somebody that might be a power player that might negotiate against us. They're trying to destabilize the region and keep the entire Middle East a quagmire of terrorism, and allowing Saudi Arabia and Israel to have enough power in the region to ensure that our economy stands strong with the deals that we have made. I hate to sound like a commie blaming the CIA for everything or some shit, but that's just the truth.
It seems to me that we have wasted an incredible amount of blood and treasure within the Middle East, right? Now, again, wasted in quotes, because I am taking into account what Scott said, right? Like, there is a goal here.
As far as the American public is concerned, absolutely.
Yes, as far as the American public, right? I think it makes us more vulnerable to, let me just say, political extremists, so not to set people off here. But political extremism, right? However you define that, okay? I think it makes us more vulnerable to political extremism, because when at home, we don't build that infrastructure. We don't invest in our people. We have people who feel hopeless and think that America's abandoned them, right? And they see, one of the things they see is that money that could have been used here in this nation, right? You know, money stolen from them through their taxes, right? Where could have been used here, flows to these other nations for endless wars, right? Like in that environment, political extremism rises. And I think we're in this moment. I think that relates to our second topic, right? Of the assassinations. I think if we engage with Iran, if we start yet another war here, continue on with a war that Israel has started, the aggressors, the butchers. I'd say that this only speeds up this process. That we'll spend another decade or so. I mean, we'll win, right? Win, win in quotes. We'll win in the end. But between then, another 2 trillion, 3 trillion, 4 trillion. How much money is gone? How much money is gone? Between
You raise the
now
debt
and
ceiling
then.
for a reason. You're trying to.
Yeah, but just it won't be a problem, right? As long as
Who
we're
knows? I can
asking
tell you what
for more
we
money
spent in
from
Iraq
Iran.
and Afghanistan, which is $2.9 trillion, and that's assuming we don't count the money that was, lost in, Pentagon being unable to track, hundreds of billions, or however much U.S. aid money was spent, or NGOs that got funneled money from other. Like, if we just talk about the actual budget on paper receipts, $2.9 trillion, and Iran has a population that is a military that is a little bit more effective, and a population that's much, much larger now, but it's not like we were really fighting Iraqi Royal Guard for very long, right? We were fighting random splinter terrorist groups. So
that was holding Iraq, right? But yeah, in a hot war with a more advanced military, with worse terrain than Iraq had. I'm not sure how it compares to Afghanistan. I know
Afghanistan is basically the worst terrain in the world to fight
that's
against.
why-
That's why
We beat their
Alexander
ass,
the Great-
and we
Alexander the
beat
Great even
their
said,
ass.
like, be wary of the wrath of the tiger.
I hate this
No,
framing
Gibbs,
you're making.
Gibbs, hold on.
We
Gibbs,
beat their
Gibbs,
ass. The
hold
only
on,
reason we lost is because we left. Like, we chose to leave. They
Gibbs, though.
took it back. Like,
It's so expensive that this is what all those other empires did as well, right? Like, and what Scott was just alluding to, the Russians came. Russians were more advanced than the Afghanis, right? And the Russians, part of the reason why the Soviets, part of the reason why they fell apart because all the money they expended in Afghanistan. The British.
Well, all the money we gave them to fight the Russians too. Let's not forget that we're always a power player in the region.
Sure, of course, we're proxies, yeah, and that's part of the game, right? But so did the I believe the British, right? And other empires have gone in there, and
the Mongol Empire and Alexander the Great couldn't take it.
Well, there's
okay?
hold on, but there's key things.
The terrain in Afghanistan is
there's a key thing that y'all are not missing with all these, right? All of those empires, when they tried to hold it, they gave up before the crucial thing that indicates that you're going to be able to convert these people to your country. One, we didn't actually conquer Afghanistan; we just beat their ass and we held it. And there's, you look at the KD ratios. I've seen reports as high as our death rates were 600 to 1 to 1100 to 1 for every U.S. soldier died against specifically combatants, right? Now, here's the key thing that we didn't do that would have changed us to win it. One, if we had conquered them, that's my opinion. Two, if we had stayed there 100 years, which the American public didn't have the stomach for, that's good. Now, don't say we lost whenever it was more of us leaving.
Gibbs, I agree, Gibbs, I agree with you. I've talked about this before. That if we wanted to hold Afghanistan, it would have to be a fourth century, right? Yeah. To actually finish the mission, right? We'd have to have like several generations, like live and die, right? Until you have an Americanized or Westernized generation that just kind of accepts the situation, right? So I agree with you, Gibbs, right? And how many trillions of dollars would that have taken? How many trillions of dollars would that have taken, right? Rather than invest that in anywhere else. And anywhere else to make America great again, right? To literally make America great again. Well, where we could put that? Could we put that in our schools, in our highways, in our failing infrastructure, right? In all ways, we could have invested the money that we did spend.
Also,
right?
we
Again,
agree.
You're projecting a century of holding this territory.
Hold
on. If you think, I think differently about like the debt, right? I think differently about the debt and deficit than from Scott and Lactoid, right? But you think my understanding is that you think closer to them, right? You're like, hey, we only have a limited amount of money,
bridge here. Let's
a limited amount of resources. But you think correct. Okay, you have only a limited amount of money and resources, and like we have to be careful where we put that. Are you saying that it is sustainable for the American economy with no consequences whatsoever to hold on to Afghanistan for a century until mission accomplished? That is, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, the answer to that is yes. I don't know about no consequences whatsoever, but yeah, we would absolutely would have been able to do that. I think that the issue is, right, we've gotten, and this is the big problem we have today, is Erbo. Erbo is bullshit, and nobody like actually follows it. We saw, China take over a country. Ukraine got it. We see Rwanda do it here. We've seen Africa do this a whole bunch of times all over Africa, and then we sit here and we get in our little meetings for Western countries at the UN and go, wow, we just really like the system of Erbo, and we just need to give them condemnations and sanctions, and then the big countries do whatever the fuck they want to do anyway. And so when you're sitting here going, yeah, we wasted money, you're absolutely correct, Prime. I will agree with this. 100%, every dollar spent in Afghanistan, I don't know about every dollar, most of the dollars spent in Afghanistan, wasted. You know why? Because we didn't fucking finish the job. Now, if we had finished the job, guess what? They would have argued been they could have been Americans. And then every dollar would have been spent improving American lives, and therefore not a waste, as you would see. In fact, we could give them some of that fancy welfare y'all want to keep giving the illegal aliens. Those Afghanis could be American citizens in 100 years. We could be giving all the money to them. It'd be wonderful. They could have their free health care and just show up.
I don't want to give the money to them. I don't want to give the money to them. Well, how about we keep the money for us? So why do we have to take over another land for 100 years? Well, mind you, they won't be American. They won't be American in your lifetime, so it doesn't fucking matter.
Cool. Unlike you, I want America to succeed far into the future, and I think that
you don't. You want Americans. You want Americans to struggle
based,
so that you can make money off
if America is the one world government. That's what it's based.
You also believe Americans should be working 70 hours a week, and if you work 40 hours, you're lazy. So no, you don't want America to be successful. You want Americans to just suffer and struggle because you can make money.
I want us to be Americans again and stop being these baby back pussies.
Yeah,
they expect everything given to them.
DB, did you have anything you wanted to say?
I'm like I don't know. So something is interesting to me about the way that Gibbs, because I think Gibbs is like what you're saying is, I think, a pretty common position, right? That I've seen from like Trump supporters, quote unquote, or not even Trump supporters. I think like Republicans, just general Republicans. I think a lot of Trump supporters are actually opposed to us getting involved. Even though they will like, even though they like cheer Israel on, they say, "Hey, that's your war. You deal with it yourselves," right?
I agree with you.
Yeah. So, but I'm like, I just don't understand what's the thing I'm looking for? It actually ties back to something that I was talking about the other day with, or like maybe like a few weeks ago with Lactoid, and I think again with Prime, where it feels like, because I consider myself to be a very nationalist person, right? So like this disconnect that I have with you, just it feels like it shouldn't be there, right? It feels like we should agree on what it means to like do it at some level. We should agree that hey, doing this sort of thing, while it might benefit us in some like maybe like a financial way or something, it's actually worse for the country long term because it does something to us as like a people, to our like national soul or spirit or something. I don't really know how to like express it, but there's some like feeling that there is like a national morality or soul or spirit or something that is being degraded by this way of thinking, where we just do the thing that makes us the most money, fuck all the civilians, fuck all the dead people, fuck all the suffering, because at the end of the day we're making more money. There's something sick about that, and I just don't know how you get there.
Well, I tell you what it is that we've gone away from. This is the biggest problem I think. Like, is that we've gone away from manifest destiny, which is actually conquering shit and turning it into America, and gone towards this bullshit where we do neo-imperialism and Urbo, and we all just hold hands and pretend that we're not fucking actually taking over countries or putting puppet governments that are basically us in there. Instead, we should just do shit out in the open and conquer these bitches. And I think that's our biggest problem right now is because y'all are gonna sit here and let these corrupt motherfuckers get away. I saw a meme the other. I actually just sent it to Fabian. It's a TikTok on Twitter, and basically I saw a thing where people go, "I saw that the Earth is 26 trillion or 39 trillion in debt. Who do we own it to?" And then the next photo is Jupiter with a fucking whatever a hat on it. It's like Jupiter, and the whole trumpets start playing. Like, it's ridiculous that we've gotten to this point where people are sitting here making jokes like that. Like, y'all are sitting here going, "Oh yeah, who's really holding the power?"
Jupiter, did you just say hat and Jupiter, and we like were people supposed to catch it? Was it a yarmulke?
Yeah, it's a yarmulke. But, yeah. So like the trumpets are like, yeah, I'll send it to you. I'll send you the clip in a second, so but like, it's like, yeah, who are we in debt to? Well, we're in
Maybe
debt
don't
to
play
like,
it on
these
stream.
shadow lords or something. Like what? Like, it's ridiculous. And you know why we're indebted to these shadow lords, the Illuminati, or I guess the Jews or whoever it is? Like, it's fucking.
I figured.
It's bullshit.
Hold
we
on.
just need to conquer shit. That's what we need to go back to. Conquering countries.
You know, Gibbs, I've come to a realization that is like kind of funny here, which is Gibbs is actually an anarcho-capitalist, and I'll explain. Okay, because anarcho-capitalism and, you know, anarchism, you know, I'm an anarcho-objectivist, whatever you want to say, right, is the belief that if you violate the non-aggression principle, that you are living by the law of the jungle and you have no right to claim any level of ethics whatsoever. That the moment that you start saying that you can violate people's rights because of the greater good and some other outcome, whatever it may be, is the moment you've left the domain of ethics and you're just saying the strong rule and it's whatever my preference is. Everything else you say is logical nonsense. And weirdly enough, Admiral Gibbs believes that. I think he's just like, no, yeah, fuck ethics. Like, I just care about my preference and my power, my people's preference and power. And the rest of you all try and maintain contradiction and speak in irrational nonsense. And I have to deal with it constantly where like you think taxes are okay and you think certain levels of power are okay, but then you like judge, you know, wars and all these other things and act like that's somehow evil. You just live your life in constant contradiction. And, you know, Gibbs, I got to give you mad respect because like you're the only one here other than myself that doesn't live in a constant state of irrationality and contradiction. I think you are supremely evil, but you are the only one here that's not actually irrational. And I just find that so fucking funny.
You're muted.
You're muted.
I don't agree with that assessment that much. Like at all, actually. I mean, maybe I like my government that backs what I'm running, but yeah, basically, that's pretty much essentially what he just said. It's nice not having to live in contradictions. No mental gymnastics here.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I'll just leave that alone. I'm glad you guys are getting along. That's fantastic.
Do you guys just become
Um,
best friends?
I'm sure. I'm just
Sure,
saying
we're gonna
he's
yell at each other more
consistently
later.
and logically evil. The rest of you aren't.
yeah. Okay. So, did you want to say anything else, Aiko? You were quiet, so I just want to.
Oh no! Although I guess I should add, yeah, it does make sense that at some point, because logic is never perfectly executed, that you were either going to be self-contradictory at some point, or you're just going to bite a lot of bullets and accept the extremes to whatever your logical reasoning like takes you to. So it does make sense that one would be one or the other.
As it is logical.
Like if my logic makes me like have to keep walking until I walk like off the balcony and fall, I'm gonna stop and not fall off the balcony, right? That's a contradiction because my logic would have me go in that direction, right? And then there's other people who will just go right off the balcony because they don't want to contradict what they've said previously or what their logical arguments like ultimately lead to. Those are your two options.
Logic doesn't need to
You can
be
be.
perfectly consistent.
I think the greatest
Um,
insult a human being can ever say is that you are irrational, right? I think there's no insult greater than that. No level of evil, even if you're like a child predator or something, cannot be the same height of evil as to simply be irrational and to think that contradictions exist. Because that argument that contradictions can exist is to say that all evil is justifiable, that all evil is good. So you're saying when you say A can equal not A, what you're actually saying is there's nothing wrong with child predators. There's nothing wrong with Hitler. There's nothing wrong with what Israel does. You were saying all of those things. So I don't necessarily disagree with you, Ike Halrich, but I do think that it is important to recognize that the person that believes that they can exist in a state of contradiction is the height of evil at its core. And while Gibbs says a lot of evil things, no matter how evil the things he says are technically less evil than all of the rest of you because he's only supporting some level of evil things. Evil.
Sure. I'm very happy for you all.
And in the
This-
long term,
this sounds
we get the
great.
win.
Let's all hold hands virtually.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just move on to our next topic. And hey, all guys, if you're out there, consider supporting the channel. We've got only a little bit of support this month, so consider helping us out. Sub to the channel, get bits to give subs, or if you have super chats, consider helping us out through a super chat. Or sorry, if you're on YouTube, use a super chat. And we will read your super chat. We'll react to your super chat. We see you guys out there chatting. Want us to react to anything? Consider supporting the channel so I can keep providing this. So subs to the channel, gift bits, or gift subs. Yeah. Consider helping us out if you enjoy this content. So providing you with it. So we'll move on to our next topic. I don't know if what's his face will join us.
Grid?
Grid. He said he had to take his kids to some event. So hopefully he'll be here. But the topic that I had actually planned for, and again, we can talk about Iran again in the future. I mean, we're going to be in this quagmire for a bit. Hopefully, we won't get any deeper than we have already.
The rest of our lives, probably.
Well, I mean, hopefully for you, right? We'd have to finish the job, and that would just take.
Unless Israel moves. If Israel moves, you won't have this problem.
No, actually, he wants to stay here for 100 years.
Yeah, what if Israel conquers the Blues? Then new problems. I guess.
Yeah. Okay. But in any case, so we'll be discussing it again in the future. But the thing that's more immediately relevant is unfortunately a tragedy that happened over this weekend. A small scale tragedy. On Saturday, a gunman dressed as a police officer assassinated a Minnesota lawmaker and her husband. He also shot and seriously injured another politician, and his wife. This seems to be a politically motivated and planned shooting. The victims were Democratic politicians, while it is suspected at the moment that the shooter was a Republican. This comes on the same day as there were multiple acts of violence against protesters during the anti-Trump No Kings rally, and it follows multiple attempts to assassinate Trump himself last year. Do you think that political violence is becoming endemic in the United States? Do you foresee this level of violence being normalized in the future? And is there anyone to blame for the current state of affairs? So in Minnesota, this individual, he seemed to be a police officer, comes for this one politician, and his wife happens to be there. He shoots them up. They survive. That first couple actually survives. And from what I understand, the timeline is this is my understanding. That he moves on to another house, and then and another Democratic politician. Those individuals weren't there because they were on vacation, and then he goes on to a third house, and that apparently there was a police car in front of that woman's house, and so he skips it. Then the fourth house, he goes to another Democratic politician, her and her husband, and he kills them both. And then the police confront him outside. That's my understanding of the timeline. I hope I didn't get anything correct. And he flees from there. Later on, just recently, he's been captured. And captured alive, right? So that's fantastic. It From the evidence presented so far, it seems that he is indeed ideologically aligned with Republicans. That he is pro-Trump, specifically. But so I want to talk about this particular incident, but I also do want to have a larger conversation about the political violence we've been facing in this country, and seeing if we think this is going to be an increasing trend. Because I think we're using the word assassination a lot more, just like literally in a span of a year, right? We've used that term a lot more. So, like, do you think the trend will increase? So we'll start with our friend Lactoid. Thanks.
Yeah. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to address a few things. The No Kings rally appeared to be largely nonviolent. There were a few incidents, though. There was a shooting. The motive is currently unknown. And then there was also a incident where an SUV drove through a group of people. If you watch that video, the group of people surrounds the car and starts attacking it. And then the SUV driver tries to flee through the crowd. So the crowd absolutely instigated that fight. They attacked the guy in the SUV. The video is clear as day. The fact that he's being deemed as like the attacker, I think, is totally fucked. And I think, again, just some kind of partisan spin that's happening. In terms of the assassination of the Democrat lawmakers in Minnesota, condemn that, obviously. Pretty easy to condemn. Pretty fucked, the whole situation. It's unclear what his motivations actually are. There's some people saying that he was a pro-Trumper. There's some people questioning how reliable that evidence is, and that, in fact, he has a history of working with Democrats. Apparently, he was appointed by Tim Walz for a certain position. I'm not sure what his political motivations were. I think there probably was some kind of political motivation, given that his list was like 45 Democrat lawmakers. Whether it be some kind of super pro-Trumper, or whether it be some kind of crazy guy with like a personal vendetta against the Democrat Party, or whether it be some far leftist who has some kind of gripe with the Democrats for some reason. I don't actually know at this point. So I'm going to withhold judgment from for that, other than just saying that it's fucked and that it shouldn't have happened. In terms of political violence generally, I've mentioned this a few times. Political polarization is getting worse and worse in America. Every decade is getting worse. In the 90s, Democrats and Republicans more or less got along, and we're okay with like having friends of the opposite political party in our two-party system. But now this is becoming less and less common. People don't have friends, like Democrats don't have friends that are Republicans, and Republicans don't have friends that are Democrats. Um, there's also studies demonstrating that Democrats appear to be a little bit worse on this issue, like in terms of pushing people away. They're more likely to cut people off if they disagree with them politically. And this does lead to increased amounts of political hegemony on the left compared to the right. But the right absolutely does it too. I think this polarization is really what's driving a lot of the hatred and a lot of strife, and then that is driving violence. So I think the whole thing is like that whole development is really bad. I think the only way to do it really is make a sincere effort to be friends with somebody who you disagree with. I know that, some of you might disagree with this, but some of my closest friends are like far lefties in real life, and we tolerate each other, and that's, I think, a good thing.
I'm happy to say Lactoid also has black friends. Okay, for the record. All right.
Good job, Lactoid.
Who are not the far lefties, by the way. Interestingly enough.
Good to know.
You can't have two strikes.
Shout out to my friend Lactoid. Let's go to Scott.
Yeah, I think the entire concept of the way that we understand violence is, obvious hypocrisy. Every person that votes is committing an act of violence. That is what they're doing. You know what I mean? Every time to quote, what is it? Is it Jack Johnson? I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but no, that's the old boxer. I think that still might be his name. That might share a name. Anyways, every time someone says, votes for, a new ticket increase or a new tax or a new law of any kind, what they're effectively saying is they want to use the power of the state to have men ready to commit violence if those people choose to act outside of the way that they want them to act. And that ultimately, if that person says, or else what, or continues forward. And so the question is why do we have an increase in these shooter situations or these, assassins, if you will, or, what is occurring there? And I think it really just comes down to this, which is, we live in an incredibly violent society, but we are able to push violence off to the side and give the source of violence to the state, right? We take it out of our mind and we pretend like we're being peaceful when we support a Democrat or a Republican, when really all we're doing is enacting violence and explicitly saying that violence and killing is good for people behaving in ways that I don't like, often non-aggressively. But as material conditions, as people's economic strife increases, their ability to disassociate their violence is going to become more and more difficult. Political polarization is, I think, downstream of the fact that our country's promises of opportunity are promises that were fulfilled to the boomers and less so to Gen X, and were denied to millennials and denied to Gen Z, and ever more our economic situation is getting worse and worse. And so this idea of we'll trust other people and we'll kind of do our own thing, is going to go away. And you're seeing people get more politically engaged, and the parties get more and more extreme as the situation of our economic situation increases. In terms of this actual shooting, this has all of the markers of the Vegas shooting. This has all of the markers of a 3-letter agency shooting, not necessarily a crazy guy. I mean, obviously I don't want to say that it is. It's still early in the situation. But I mean, you have this guy Vance Butler, right, who was the director of security patrols of a supposedly made up private military contracting group, of which his wife was the CEO. He goes to Africa for 18 months and is getting a bunch of government money in Africa, giving speeches in churches, working for another group, which is Red Lion Group. Sorry, the CEO of Red Lion Group, which supposedly, according to his roommate, that he lived in a halfway house with 2 other dudes, despite the fact that he owned a mansion and a bunch bunch of acres and also owned an entire church that he was renovating and owned several other properties. For whatever reason, he was living in a ramshackle area with two other guys that was discussing and had a bunch of calves. According to that guy, this was all a fantasy and he never engaged in any of that, but he had multiple like police like vehicles and and on top of that, Red Lion Group was bought by HM Systems, which is like one of the most valuable companies in all of Sweden. And so it's like really weird that like this group that and IRA Systems, which is the same CEO that deals with like telecommunications and technology in underdeveloping regions and gets all kinds of government contracts from America and a bunch of other places, is the company that buys this supposedly useless company that never did anything. The idea that he was able to evade police despite being a fat 57-year-old man and get caught later because he had another vehicle there, but also he's just a crazy guy that didn't do any planning and he totally didn't have any help. The fact that like people had like silicone mask and a bulky jacket, which makes identifying the person in the cameras very difficult. So it's hard to know if he even did that. The fact that his wife and several family members were caught fleeing the state with $50,000 in cash, guns, tons of ammunition, and passports instead of coming in and being like, oh my God, what's going on? I mean, like over and over and over and over and over again, there are a lot of puzzle pieces that don't make sense in one puzzle. And so this wouldn't surprise me if this was a 3-letter agency targeting Democrats that stepped out of line because they came for their Social Security money that they were funneling to black sites and to things that the taxpayer doesn't want to pay for. And when they told them to stop, all of a sudden they didn't stop. They get murked, and now a crazy guy gets activated, and he went to a bunch of different places. And I don't buy this story. I don't buy this shooter story. I don't buy the narrative. I don't buy the fact that they don't have the manifesto out. I don't buy the fact that the guy, for whatever fucking reason, didn't have his own car keys that morning and broke his roommate's car that he lent him so that he could get something out of the car and made sure his face was on camera multiple times. I don't buy any of this shit. It's extremely sus. This looks like a fucking 3-letter agency taking out some Democrats that were coming for their money more than anything. And you can call me crazy if you want, but that story makes a lot more sense than this bullshit the media is selling.
Thanks so much. Aiko, let's take a look at my DMs. Corey.
I love following Scott. Makes my Monday. But what I will say also is I very much appreciate Lactoid's endorsement of his friends. I tolerate you. To all my friends out there, I tolerate you as well. But Lactoid does have a point in terms of political polarization. That does appear to be a thing that appears to be increasing. And I'm sure there are multiple variables at play. But let's just say, maybe part of it is black and white thinking. I think that's a variable at play in terms of political polarization, in terms of not pointing any fingers, of like, well, if you call someone irrational, that must mean you are evil, and that voting is an act of evil. I wonder if that has anything to do with political polarization and black and white thinking. Just throwing it out there. But Scott also does have a point in terms of there is a disaffected generation. Millennials, Gen Z, and probably Gen Alpha coming up. And like that will have political ramifications. But all that to say, like these are just some of the variables at play in terms of why there appears to be increasing political polarization and violence. And what the answer is, I don't know. What I can say is, like, obviously this is a horrific act. What the actual root cause of it is, I guess we'll find out. But from what I can tell of the details so far, we don't know for sure, as in what their political affiliation is, a Republican, Democrat, Independent, don't know for sure. But what appears to be of the current information available, at the very least, they seem to be a pretty staunch religious conservative. If I'm a betting person, I would bet my money that they're either conservative or Republican, or both. But we'll see what the actual information says somewhere down the line, if we actually get those facts. But yes, I'll leave it there for now in terms of, this is bad. I don't know what the actual answers are.
Ollie.
Yeah. So it seems like everything's getting political online, right? And the online representatives are probably the worst people that you could have, right? So like if you are a hater of Charlie Kirk, right, you're going to assume anyone that likes him is just he embodies it, all of it, and you're gonna hate anyone that likes him. And so far, like Asmongold, Destiny's, all these people, like the rhetoric is ramping up. It's going crazy because the views are. It gets them the views, right? When they're talking about stochastic terrorism, or when like Hassan Piker and Noah Samson are talking about like amping up protests, and like peaceful protests aren't doing enough, or like peaceful measures aren't doing enough. Their followers are obviously gonna, follow suit. And so when it's just total drama and beef online and constant arguing, the rhetoric's going crazy, you're obviously going to have people that are acting out the measures that they're seeing. So I don't know. I don't see this getting any better. I don't know. Sorry, I'm just completely spazzing out. My wife is coughing up, so I gotta give me a second. I'll be.
Gibbs.
So, I actually, oh, damn, Sociologic left. He's not going to get to see this joke. I actually brought my tinfoil yarmulke today. And I got to say, we're going to be a little bit out of Jonesy. But Fabian beat me to it. This shit is goddamn sus, bro. It's fucking insane. Like, you mentioned the Vegas shooter. I'm not as familiar with all the stuff that goes there. But I do remember the Matthew Cook shooter for, Trump. And that shit was wild. The guy, like, yeah, this guy's a registered Republican is what all the Dems started putting out. Then turns out he worked for BlackRock. He donated money to the Dems. Yeah, real sus. The guy's, like, clearly somehow got the ability to shoot in an area that's, like, should be watched by the, Secret Service. All shit. Real weird. And, like, I wouldn't be surprised. This guy, however, I've got like a hyper realistic mask. I think it's the same one used by Luigi. He's got the bulky clothes. He's got all this bullshit with the cars and the guns. He goes all over Africa working for this security organization that somehow can't make any money, and yet, he's still able to go on these trips over there and give speeches, and yet none of these speeches have any recordings, apparently, except for like one where he talks about some shit. And then that's what everybody's saying. Oh, look at these religious views. And then all these things. It's sus as fuck. I got a lot of questions. And it's also the timing is really weird. The woman the night before that said she was voting against this, she looked terrified. Like, I'm not one to sit here and read body language, but she sounded terrified. She looked terrified. Like, if I was a betting man, which I've never gambled in my life, I would put a lot of money on the fact that she was terrified. Like, that would be something I would do. And it's no surprise to me that, like, the guy, the governor that coined the word creepy to head off everybody calling him their creepy Uncle Tim, is the one that's sitting here, like, behind a lot of this, and maybe this area, or has known about it. Because not only did this guy get appointed by Walz, he got appointed by the previous Democratic governor to this position. I'm not going to sit here and say it's a Republican or a Dem. I think that if there was ever a three-letter agency false flag, this shit's got every fucking hallmark I've ever seen. I mean, all we need now is some sheds from the lizard that he actually is. We just need to get his skin from the ground, because he's probably a lizard person, or maybe a frog like Doobie. I don't fucking know. At this point, the conspiracy theories are more likely to be correct than anything else. I do think political violence is on the uptick. The timing's really weird with like all these protests going out, and way they did it on that day, and it takes away, or the day before, it takes away a lot of the media coverage from that, because the protests were mostly peaceful. That's pretty sus. I find that all of it is suspicious to me. I do think political violence is becoming more and more a problem. I've talked to many lefties, and many lefties are like coming to join Republicans because the lefties are just like very, very dogmatic. If you don't believe what I am, you're evil kind of thing. Versus Republicans are willing to like maybe a joke with you and make you cool, and they get whatever. But like it's kind of like, I want to work with you or talk with you and come to like common ground stuff. But most lefties are not. I think I want to applaud Prime. Prime is willing to have conversations with everybody and host people on here. He does a good job of that. We need more lefties like Prime and less lefties like these people that are just isolationists amongst their peers, and that's a problem. Partisanship, and just not willing to talk to people is a huge problem. I don't know what the solution for that is. Maybe it's the social media radicalization. There's probably a lot of competing theories, but yeah, I definitely think this was some kind of CIA hit job. Also, how do you identify somebody when they have a hyper-realistic mask on and they're basically covered head to toe in tactical gear? That's what I haven't figured out yet. When you do figure that out, let me know.
I don't know if he was covered in that the entire time, and they could have
by his hat.
The vehicle.
Yeah, by his
literally
hat.
by his hat and by his car.
Yeah, suspicious.
Yeah, his car.
It's suspicious.
That doesn't seem too suspicious.
The car's not that suspicious.
Yeah, they do that all the time.
Well, I mean, this whole company is suspicious. We can dive in.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
That's fine. Let's go.
Sorry, I was just trying to answer. My bad. It's opening. My bad.
Sure. No worries, friend. Aiko, you are
I
muted,
think you're
friend.
muted.
Sorry, I agree with Gibbs that the best alternative to this being just some like sort of crazy rightoid is lizard people. I think that's probably the second most plausible explanation. That's probably
So those
where I agree.
people.
But if we're going to talk about like what we know about him, and this would have to be something going back years, right? So he would have to be truly like a sleeper agent who was like put into this like a long time ago. Is the fact that I think he registered twice, 2002, no 2004, and then again in 2022, both as a Republican. We do know that most of the people on his list, if they weren't Democrats, then they were people associated with the abortion industry. So I think the most likely motive would be something to do with his religious evangelicalism or his opposition to abortion. And of course, those are two overlapping things. So this seems, if he got it in his mind, if he spazzed out and was a little bit crazy, and he already had these beliefs about abortion, being murdered, and the best way he could save lives is. I'm Catholic, so I know a lot of people who actually know someone involved in the sort of abortion
like curse
protesting
type shit.
industry, and
Well,
everybody
okay, but
knows
curses
somebody
and voodoo
who's
are totally different things.
a little bit
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry,
extremist
I'm not
in
considered
their
right.
views at those kinds of protests, where even the other protesters are like, man, I don't know about that guy. And it sounds like he's one of those types who's on that element. And just to give you an illustration as to what I mean, Prime, do you have that
Did you see
video
my
ready? I'm sorry?
Did you see my DMs?
Yeah, you said to put it in live into.
To share it to StreamYard.
Yeah, just put it in the StreamYard chat is what I assume.
No.
He wants to share your screen and
Video
Share
share.
my
Yeah.
screen into,
There's a
into-
share button at the bottom, or present button.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Bottom.
Let me go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
one clip that's going around. Well, there's like two of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah,
so
I'm sure.
yeah,
I'll set it up later and then we'll watch it.
yeah. We'll let our friend Doobie go first. Doobie,
Okay.
please.
you just
Oh,
I agree. Go ahead.
Sorry. The last thing is I just wanted to say quickly, like as on that on the board that he was in. Yeah, it's true that he was appointed by Tim Walz, but it was a bipartisan board, which means he has to put some Democrats and he has to put some Republicans. So of course you would expect. Typically, what happens is he gets a list from the Republican leaders within the state who say these are the people we would like to recommend, and then from that list he picks somebody else. And the previous governor who was also a Democrat, picked him. It was a 40-member board. These were unpaid positions and not particularly powerful positions, and it's a bipartisan board. So he's going to put Republicans on that board as well as Democrats.
Democrats appoint Republicans to things all the time that drives
Yeah.
me up the fucking wall. Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Let's go to our friend Doobie.
So I'm not typically the lizard people person, right? I don't typically go that far, but I do have to say, what Scott laid out, especially, it does make sense. It makes way more sense than the current narrative, to be honest. And maybe it's because the Epstein thing happened, and they're still dragging their ass to let any of that shit out after promising that they would repeatedly, and then they make this big show of doing it. It's the same shit that's been out already for like 2 years, 3 years now, and they're just like hoping it goes under the rug. Like obviously, the government's involved in some shady shit. The Vegas thing, right? So at the time when people were saying this was like some kind of like CIA three-letter agency thing, I brush it off, right? Because people always say that with shootings. But if you actually go and look into that shit, it's really fucking strange. There's a lot of shit there that just doesn't add up. It doesn't make any fucking sense. So I would, and given that the current climate, I would not put it past CIA, some group within the government to do something like this. So, but before I make that firm stance, or make that my position, I would just wait for more information if it ever comes out, which it probably won't. I assume in a couple weeks I'll brush this under the rug and move the fuck on to the next thing.
Yeah, okay. I have no
I mean, they
thoughts on
did
that.
catch the guy, and he's still alive, so that's a stroke of luck.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, I mean, they caught the guy
Yeah,
who
sure.
shot RFK, right? Or JFK.
Yeah.
And then see what happened. But
Well, not for long.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Listen again. I got my tinfoil hat on for a reason, right? Once Gibbs broke his out. Look. I don't know what happened. Nobody knows what happened. Nobody knows why it happened, right? I'm just trying to see what makes more sense. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the narrative that I laid out makes more sense. You have this woman was looking terrified, as Gibbs said, which is very fucking like it was very strange.
Can you
Maybe she's
explain
just
this to the
distraught
woman who
because she had
who died?
Yes. How just before because she had to vote. What was she voting against? What she was voting against? The two that actually died were Democrats that were voting to defund Social Security payments to illegal immigrants. Now, what you have to understand about Social Security payments is you hear from Democrats all the time that not a single Social Security payment goes to illegal or undocumented immigrants. And the reason they say that is you'll always hear not a single federal fund goes to that. And you're like, well, why do they use that
Coffin voted
terminology?
for it, to be
And the
clear,
reason
though.
they use that terminology is that money goes to the states and then the states distributes that money. And so you have a lot of people that are getting those benefits with false Social Security numbers and things of that nature. Now, if I was going to run a CIA black site type shit and do crazy things around the world, which CIA has done constantly over and over and over again, they never stopped doing it. I might use fake Social Security numbers and have one or two people that work in the Social Security Administration. And all I need is, 1,000 fake Social Security numbers. And then all of a sudden I've got, a little under $1 million a year for a project somewhere. And I don't have to put it through the regular channels. Now, the reason all I'm saying is none of this shit adds up. Not a single, and this idea that we're like obsessed with whether or not someone voted or registered as like a Republican or a Democrat really just goes to show how the entire conversation is nonsense around these things. And like tribal politics is like, has taken over. Like whether they're a CIA fucking activated sleeper guy who's just a nutcase, right? And they went out and murdered somebody and then they've put a fall guy on some crazy guy, or whether or not it's just a crazy guy operating completely on his own. Anytime that it is just the crazy guy, if you look into their political ideology, it never matches Democrats or Republicans. Right, like it's always like I'm an environmental terrorist that hates blacks. It's always a mixture of the most insane, like the idea that it's like this guy was a Republican or this guy was the people that go out and assassinate politicians have wild fucking ideologies that are like a mix match of different things they got fed once because they were on a Discord server and believed some shit, and they're like, and their grasp on reality is very limited. They never neatly fit onto the right or the left. And so like remember that guy, the black guy that like was like shooting on like the trainway station, and then people were like, he's a fucking critical race theory guy because we got access real quick, and he had a bunch of like anti-white racist memes, and the right was like obsessed with being like, this guy's crazy. And it's like, and you look at other shit and like he's like, yeah, he has those crazy ideas, and he also supports a bunch of like I think at like one point he like praised Hitler. It was like, dude, these people they don't fit into that camp. Yeah,
Like
no,
Kanye
I'm sorry.
West.
The whole thing stinks of high heaven. It stinks of a fucking 3-letter agency hit because those people went after their fucking slush fund by going after Social Security because it's the easiest way to get money from the government and get funnel money illegally without anybody noticing, so that you don't have to keep the money on the books.
That's pretty
Yeah,
scary. I mean, how do we vote against that? How do we stop the actual deep state, the one that's like assassinating people? Because
Yeah,
You vote Trump in a
you want to
third
stop.
time.
You
Do it that
want
code.
to bring in political stability. You want to stop all of this political violence, and you want to defund a bunch of problems. Well, maybe, just maybe, things like USAID and NGO payments that literally funded the Arab Spring and are being used via funding of the AFL-CIO to fund all of the fucking current protests that are going on, that are meant to destabilize a country, that are done. You're literally paying for the left-wing protests that are destabilizing your country right now with your tax
Scott,
dollars. You
I
get rid of that shit.
well, just to like back up a little bit here of what Scott's saying, because I know sometimes Scott talks a lot about things that
Will talks a lot. Yeah, sure.
people might not find like, oh, that's like some conspiracy or whatever. But they're like, I'll link you guys a website where you can actually like go through each of the donors for the No Kings protest and trace back like the organizations where it comes from, or which organizations
it's
give
like
money to them.
$130,000
And
here, $80,000
the-
here. Yeah.
And like I learned a lot.
Here, Northrop Grumman.
No. So it's even weirder. So have you ever heard of the endowment for the Endowment for Democracy?
The National Endowment for
Yeah.
The National Endowment for Democracy.
Yeah.
So
It's a CIA. It's a CIA group that they use to destabilize other countries, and they use
Sure.
it to destabilize our country as well.
So the U.S. aid, which is a government program, almost funds entirely the National Endowment for Democracy. It's overwhelmingly over 95% being funded by the government.
Yeah, it's the shit
And-
that started
and them-
protests in Ukraine, by the way.
Yeah, and them combined with it's a branch of the AFL-CIO, literally a union. It's a branch of the AFL-CIO's, like their political wing. They also get direct funding, and so their funding is over 96% from the government. So the government is funding
$72 million last year.
Yeah, the government is funding the AFL-CIO's political branch, which then goes on to give money to various left-wing causes in the United States. It's fascinating when you actually start
It's actually
following the money trails.
It's actually more than their union dues, which was only 68 million, I believe. So it's a couple $1 million more than their union dues is government money that then goes to fund left-wing activist organizations, or
It's very
more
open.
importantly, NGOs and things of that nature that
The deep state
that
is
target-
transparent.
It's
No, it's just
surprisingly
the deep
transparent.
state-
Seriously.
The deep state is inefficient, right? Because the state is inefficient. And on top of that, we have a lot more tools. They haven't updated their ability to hide shit because we have a lot more tools and laws that were based off of a world before the internet, or,
That's a
before
fact.
normal people could be like, hey, Grok, where does this funding come from?
Well,
Immediately
even
gives you
then,
the
they
fucking
can't.
answer.
Even then, you have to like have a degree in fucking this bullshit to even make heads or tails of half of it. You know what I'm saying?
Sorry,
Like,
can we?
Yeah, you got to put on your
can we-
tinfoil hat and really dig deep.
Mhm.
Sorry. Can we not though? Right? Like, so I am fully ready to believe that our intelligence agency
Solidarity
has done
Center.
something horrible, right? Because they have done something horrible. They did lots of horrible things to Black people. They stuffed out a lot of Black civil rights leaders. They assassinated them. And we've seen this from the past, right? And we see them in other
Mhm.
countries. We know that they operate now.
Tried to start a
But-
war with Cuba with false flag
all the
attack.
time,
The-
and so many things.
Right, tried to
And-
kill Americans so that we would go to war with Cuba and, things like
and
that.
I thought it was interesting what our friend Scott said during the last segment about the decommissioned carriers or whatever, right? Warships going to the Middle East, and like what happens if they get bombed? It would be kind of a coincidence. The ones we don't need get bombed, and then that's an excuse
Mhm.
for war. I'm willing to do all that, okay? However, in this moment, at this time, the facts that we do have are that like this person, probably a Republican, right? Probably a guy who is unhinged and then decided to shoot at Democrats. That is the simplest explanation now. Again, I'm going to update my
I disagree.
understanding there.
I disagree with that
Hold
as
on.
well.
One second.
Absolutely disagree.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, sure. I'm going to update my understanding when we have additional evidence that can actually tell us that it was our intelligence agencies, that we have a very good idea. But right now, we're just making like random conjectures. I might be using that term wrong. Lacto, don't yell at me. But
What is your hold on, Prime? What is your evidence of
Um,
that? If I may, like, what is your evidence that he's actually
The police
Republican?
says so.
because the only evidence I've seen so far is a random
that he's Republican?
his neighbor said something, and then like a Papa
His
John's guy
roommate.
said something, and his roommate,
Yeah.
and all those people are
yeah,
fairly
multiple
suspect.
people have said something, and he targeted Democratic politicians, right? Like that's a very good sign.
That would
right?
get that voted with
just like-
Republicans,
hold
right?
on.
That
And,
voted-
and, he's,
Good sign,
and
Prime.
said
that they voted with
is-
Republicans.
And the person who said he voted, yeah, I mean, first of all, we don't have his voting record yet. We've just been told what his voting record is right now, so we don't know for
Mhm.
sure. But that's what this individual said.
Post
He's
reported
been,
on that.
voting with Republicans, and as of now, it seems that. Sorry, would you say? I didn't hear you.
New York Post is the one that reported his voter registrations. Doesn't mean that we know how he voted, but we know that he was registered.
But
as
Oh,
Republican.
was Matthew
Uh,
Cook a
registered
It
Republican?
is an open primary, though.
so yeah, no, but we can say that it's most likely that Matthew Cook or whatever his name was what was a Democrat. Okay, sure, but like the targeting Donald Trump, but like the evidence that we have now at this very moment, right? Not the ones that we're making up in our heads, not all the connections or
I have more evidence for my claim than
No, I think it's
I have more
USA.
evidence.
Yeah, it
No,
might be.
listen,
Yeah, it might be USA. Might have been, or it could
Oh, you're
be
cut- you're
like it's
cutting out.
weird.
They funded Ukrainian terrorists first, and
Hold on,
now they're
let me ask
funding
you one more
these
question, Brian.
terrorists.
Let me-
Okay,
can I-
this is
Now,
what
yeah,
USA
now
does.
what
Well, no,
haven't they done, right?
Let
Yeah,
me weave this.
like
let me weave this, right? Because you're I feel like you're specifically attacking what you believe to be his conjecture from me, right? So
Let him
let
weave
me
the most
let me explain.
plausible scenario.
Right. Let me explain. The evidence that we have to support the current narrative, right, obviously is ring light footage of a person that could be anybody, right? We have the vehicles that are linked to both the person and his business. Okay. Now this business, now we have the roommate who's claiming he's a Republican. Now his roommate is reading things off of his cell phone, being like, "It was totally did this alone, and I'm so sorry." Right? And we have the hit list that was not his actual hit list, but the police reporting what his supposed hit list is. That was presumably either, we don't know if it was physical or digital. They won't say, right? But we have the police, local PD, right? So this isn't necessarily FBI or somebody, right? It's not a 3-letter agency reporting that. Okay, we have previous ideological statements, when he was in Africa, that say that, he's a very, very against abortion, and all of those things seem plausible. My problem with this situation is that there's a whole bunch of other things that don't fit that narrative. Okay. Him breaking into his roommate's car the morning that he's about to shoot people. Crazy people do crazy shit, and they certainly do crazy shit the day that they're going to go assassinate people. So let's set that aside, right? That's not that crazy. His roommate saying that everything was a fantasy, and his previous work experience being a manager at 7-Eleven, but having the millions of dollars to buy these vehicles, buy a $60,000 church, buy a mini mansion with I think it's something close to 50 acres of land. His wife having, being able to quickly get together 50 grand in cash. All of those things don't really fit his supposed job description, where everyone is where the NPR is reporting that these things never did any government contracts, and that it's probably just a sham business that never really existed, and he was completely broke and ran out of money and never got any help from anybody in Africa. It's like he's so broke, and then he comes back, and I guess we're supposed to believe that his wife is divorcing him. That's why he's living in a halfway house with 2 other dudes that are totally his best friend in this ramshackle house. But why does he then buy a $60,000 church? The fact that his company that supposedly doesn't fucking make any money whatsoever is bought. We don't know how it was acquired. We just know who acquired it. It was acquired by a large, an incredibly large business that does cutting edge thing in third world countries and does a ton of government contracts. If it was a worthless company that never made any business and the funding all dried out, why would HM Strategies even acquire the business? What value did it have if not contracts, property, or if not they were paying him for some reason for services rendered or moving money or laundering money in some way? There are a lot of things that do not fit that media narrative. I offered an alternative narrative, but I'm not saying my narrative is the correct narrative. What I'm saying is here's a narrative that makes sense with the evidence. And the one that you and the media are presented makes zero sense with the evidence. It just, the idea that he acted alone, the idea that, there's a lot of evidence that does not fit that narrative.
Hold on. To be clear, I'm not saying that whatever anything that I'm presenting is necessarily correct. Again, I keep stipulating it's in this moment. This is what we have. I say that for a reason because
for sure. I'm just saying it's
Can I
a
ask you
less
a question,
likely
Brian?
and less plausible than mine.
Can I just ask you a question, Brian?
I'm not ready to go that far yet. But 1 second. Just so what I'm saying is that you have presented, and I haven't looked into this, right? But I'm not calling you a liar, of course, Scott. Right? All I'm saying is that I'm unaware of these individual pieces. Right? I've heard about the Red Lion Group, and that there wasn't any evidence that any business had actually been done through that organization, at least at this moment. But like whatever, right? Like when I hear that, all that tells me is that, well, this is a crime that happened less than 3 days ago, and we're still investigating. And then we have a person's life who we have not fully penetrated, right, and examined yet. And so that, from rather than saying, okay, now we have a few threads here, right, that haven't been tied up, and instead let's put an alternative narrative with these threads and say, hey, why don't we just wait and hear more evidence, right? And maybe there is a reasonable explanation for literally everything that you brought up, right? Maybe there's an unreasonable explanation because people live unreasonable lives, right? Maybe this guy just has a line of credit that we don't.
For sure. I'm just this, like, there's the problem with your argument. I agree. I totally agree with your argument. The problem with your argument is there is this insistence that he worked alone, that police are saying, and that media are touting, right?
And I'm not
I
saying
find that to
myself
be
either,
I find that to be an insane claim given both the evidence and how early the investigation is. And this is another thing that stinks to me about it. There is an insistence of taking the testimony of this guy this stinky fat slob that lives with him, that, oh, this is all a fantasy. Oh, NPR checked, and there doesn't seem to be any contracts, so this is a made up thing. There's this insistence early on that these things are the truth, or that this is where evidence is weighed, as opposed to going, yeah, things aren't making sense, they're not adding up, clearly we need to do more investigation. Like, I hate to be like one of the fucking Juicebergs or something, but like, I'm noticing a fucking pattern. Okay, I'm noticing some patterns, and it has all the hallmarks of these things that we'll never learn anything about ever again, right? I will never hear anything about, just like the Vegas shooter, right? We'll never get any information about, just like the Trump shooter. There are certain shootings that occur, or like the guy that shot up the Walmart and was in a Discord server with a retired FBI agent and another guy that gave him his whole manifesto, and somehow he had the money for fuck tons of firearms and guns that he shouldn't have had the money for, and he totally didn't have a handler. He had a handler in a Discord server. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, there are certain shootings that have the hallmark of psyops, or things that are designed to take care of problematic people, when the 3-letter agencies find a problematic person and they activate crazy people. And there's this weird insistence that we're supposed to talk about MK Ultra and all the shit that the CIA did as like, oh, that was totally shut down, and we should just trust that the CIA don't do that shit. And instead of just the more reasonable assumption, which is they kept doing that shit, and occasionally they activate people that are fucking psychos, and then they make them the fall guy because they have handlers, and then they have someone actually get the assassinations done, and then they have this crazy true believer that's like, yep, I did that shit. Because in a world of 8 billion people, you can find crazy people and fund them money and have a handler and control them in certain ways so that they'll take credit for shit like that.
Sure. So I'm going to go to Gibbs, and then I'm going to show the video that Aiko wants us to look at. And from there, I actually wanted to expand. I can't, because we can't actually engage with this. Like, sure. My other problem is that no one can engage with this.
I'll try here.
You can.
I just
accept it as true.
We can't engage with this. Gibbs, go ahead.
Why can't you engage with this?
Because we're just like making random conjecture. Because what agency I'm going to blame from this, right? Now you're saying MK Ultra. It might have been the MK. Yeah, it might have been, right? Or it might have been.
He wants to have a conversation about political violence.
This is bullshit. This is total bullshit. It's like so long as I present a narrative that the media that lies every fucking day, that has a bunch of evidence that doesn't make fucking sense with the narrative they're presenting, we can all engage with that. But the moment that I start talking about some shit, we immediately got to use the CIA created term in our thought about conspiracy theory. Yeah, I didn't say conspiracy theory.
I said MK Ultra. I used what you said, right? You said, "Hey, maybe it's MK Ultra." I don't know. Sure, it could be. It could be some other program that I don't know about. It could be a lots of things, right? There is a whole universe. There's Mossad, right? Maybe Mossad is part of it.
I just think it's funny. I just think it's funny. I think it's funny that you create a topic for us to talk about, but then all of a sudden it's too fucking new to be able to talk about.
Friend. I'm like, no, friend, please. I'm not trying to call you a liar, and I said that before, right, or anything.
I didn't say you called me a liar.
Great. So then I'm not trying to antagonize you here. That's not my goal, right? My goal is what I'm saying now is that for the rest of us, like the best we can do is then start making like, all right, I don't know about this anyone any participant here could say to themselves, well, I don't know about this particular three-letter agency. We're not even naming the agency, right? We're just saying it's one of them. I don't know about any program that could activate this individual. I don't know what their goals might have been, right? I don't know any of these things, right? All I do have is a list of data. We won't even call them facts.
I'm not
right?
claiming that I know all these things
Hold
either.
on,
I'm saying it has similarities with other things, and it fits the evidence better.
Please let me finish. That we have a bunch of presented information, data that we are aware of, right? And that doesn't necessarily line up with that, right? That has a perfectly reasonable narrative, but instead we'll have to like grapple with something that like we have that none of the rest of us, right, who aren't in the know, have any idea about. We can't actually engage with that. That's not a topic of engagement. But we can.
I'm sorry that I come onto a political panel to talk politics, and I try and get people in on the know. How dare I educate people on things the CIA has admitted to doing?
I didn't shut you down from saying it. I gave you a lot of time to say it. You said it. Thank you. You've educated us. We appreciate it. Now, from there, I actually like to move on to the other part of the question, right? About this becoming endemic. I said I want to start with this and then blow it up, right? See a larger pattern.
A thread the weave to the CIA causing all the political violence in the world today.
All of it might be the CIA. It might be every single political assassination might be the CIA. It could be. Let's all assume.
Not all of them.
Okay, thank you.
All the anti-Zionist.
Say your thing, and then I just want to get past.
Yeah, I also want to move past, and I think that's like, I'm going to segue into that, and then you can just give Lyco or whatever. But like, so I guess the issue I'm having is like I know I also brought up the conspiracy theory hits my tinfoil hat thing. Let's just like dumb it down quite a bit real quick. Your argument has been, his caucus, right, leads you to believe that he's more Republican based on what you've seen, right? And then on the right, he will go, oh, well, not only was he appointed by one dim governor, he was appointed by two, and then they list all the shit Fabian's done. Like, I think that we're getting past that thing that you want to talk about, which is the political violence, which is becoming more and more of a problem, right? And I think that this is actually a symptom of the overall problem. If it is the three-letter agencies like me and Fabian have proposed, they're using the cover of other actual political violence to get their agenda accomplished. If it is just a crazy person, they've been inspired by the massive political violence that's happening. And if not, if it's not either of those two, then who knows? But the political violence has become such a problem nationwide that if it is the three leaders, they're able to do this and present it to both sides as it's the other side. And then if it's not them, then we're not enabling crazy people to go and do this, like Luigi, like this guy potentially, and it's a recurring problem. And I don't know what the solution is, but I'll tell you what it's not. It's not going and sitting here where we go and do these witch hunts where if you have a group of friends and you go, oh, this guy's a Republican, cut him out. Or if you're a Republican, you do the same thing with the Dems and stop having conversations. That's why we're getting more political violence. Because what's happening is now, say, you have an election, right? Trump wins. He wins like, what, 51%, 52% of the vote, whatever. It's basically 50-50. It's his turn to enact laws, and the left riots across the nation. Now, not all of them. The No Kings protest was pretty good, but what happened in LA was unacceptable. Basically, what happened with BLM back in the day, unacceptable. We can argue January 6th was also unacceptable. All these things are bad, and that only happens because of the extreme purity testing to where we can't be friends with people of the opposite party. And if that doesn't happen, where we can actually get back to talking, then fine. People act like America hasn't always been politically violent. Andrew Jackson killed an estimated over 100 people in duels. Sounds pretty politically violent to me. We've had people have fistfights in Congress back in the day, in the 1800s over shit. Political violence has always been a thing. We've had lots of assassinations. However, I don't think we've ever had this many assassination attempts or actually assassinations in a short period of time on leading figures. This is a problem, and to act like it's one side or the other is actually bullshit. What is a problem is the fact that nobody can talk to each other anymore. Like just right now, if if y'all didn't know, they're having a hit piece going on 2 or 3 different channels talking about all this shit, how I'm retarded for saying, oh, well, the Abuelitas are a problem because whatever. And it's just because, even though they're cool with me and they'll talk to me in person, yeah, it's fine. Then they can use you for content. This is a problem nationwide right now. People, if you have an opinion about something, then it's opposite of theirs. They're going to come for you. And
Just slip that in.
I personally,
just kind of inserted that, yeah.
well, it's because they're watching right now. I welcome y'all to watch me and lurk and hate because you know what? It's just going to give me more ad revenues. Oh, by the way, enjoy a 2-minute ad.
Was anyone saying this is like a problem on the right specifically? I don't
It's both. It's
think
definitely
anyone
both.
was. Yeah, but I don't think
I
anyone
think
was saying it
you
was
have a
getting
lot of
left
people on
or
the
right.
left.
Problem.
You have a lot of
problem,
people
right?
on the left that will make that claim that the problem.
I can give you. I mean,
politically is on the right.
listen. I can,
And you have a
let
lot of
me-
people on the right that make the same claim against the left.
Yeah, so let me just
right?
give you a list. I mean, Lee Harvey Oswald was a Marxist. Gavrilo Princip was a Marxist. He started World War One, took out Archduke Ferdinand or whatever. Sirhan Sirhan.
We're going way back.
Apologized
Right?
to. Well, I'm getting closer. Sirhan Sirhan took out RFK. He was, I'm sorry, Prime, but he was pro-Palestinian. Carlos the Jackal was a left-wing Marxist. James Hodgkinson, that was in 2017. He's the guy who went on to the congressional baseball game or whatever and tried to take out Republicans. And actually it put somebody in the hospital for months. Those were all on the left. Like there are like known left-wing people who are like political assassins. And I think that we're going to see that going forward from both parties because of honestly, I think you can call me a conspiracist on this one, but I think that the Russian troll farms, their real goal wasn't to put Trump in power per se. Their goal was to take Republicans and Democrats and put them at each other's throats, which is why in 2016 they actually supported 3 people. They supported Trump because he was out there for a Republican and he was had the potential to divide the country. But they also supported Bernie because they wanted to push Democrats over, to where the people could call them the S word, socialist. And then there was a third party candidate. It was the Green Party candidate, Jill Stein, who they supported too. And they didn't think they could get any of those 3 in. They just wanted to get as many of those 3 people, pushed it forward as possible so that we would be at each other's throats because there's not a lot of ideological compromise that was possible to go there. But then also, Prime, can we show the thing?
Sure. And Sir Bobbles, thank you for re-upping your tier 1 membership on YouTube. It says, I am enjoying the digs from the Twitch chat. Bravo to NoCal Mike, who apparently is saying, okay. Hold on. Let me read this quickly from NoCal Mike, then we'll go to that. It says, Prime, you mean the list that the deep state provided the media, right? Yeah. The list of facts. NoCal Mike says, Prime Kai, how do you know the 3-letter agencies didn't plant Fabian and Gibbs on this panel to poison the well with this information? We can't be sure.
If they give me if they give me enough money, I'll poison the well. Give me more money, folks. Where's my Zionist handler? If you're listening.
I mean, to be fair, yeah, Gibbs will actually do whatever.
Gibbs is always consistently evil, brother.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
do that.
If y'all, if Zionists, if y'all want to give me money, I'm in. You can make.
NoCal Mike says, my conclusion is Fabian is a 3-letter agency disinformation agent. Mark it down. All right. Well, thanks for that.
Which 3-letter agency are you working for, Scott?
Right. Which, I guess, maybe a 4-letter agency. I'm the first spy by Doge because the only thing I'm calling for is to cut all of this shit.
Sir Bobbles also says, oh, hey, Remy LeBeau. Thank you for being here. So Bobbles also give a $2 super chat saying, I'm helping promote Twitch chat. They are active. So I appreciate it. And guys, Twitch chat, consider there you are, Sir Bobbles. Consider supporting the channel. If you haven't done so already, if you're out there, got a Twitch, Amazon Prime Gaming. Consider using that here. Support this community so I can keep doing this. I do need your help. We haven't got much. We got 6 subs this month, so consider helping us out. We can really use it. All right, let's go to iCal, and he has.
I gave you a sub just now, Prime. Like in the
so you did resub previously, right? Yeah.
Yeah, today.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for the resubbing. We do need a lot more. But no, thank you. I just think.
You ain't doing a good enough job, Cal.
Okay, so let's go ahead. Click play.
Okay, I'll go ahead and hit play. This is not the one that went viral. I think this is a second one. But the reason I'm showing this one instead of that one is because it's also topical to things that were happening in the legislature.
Does he
and I
use
have a very
TOS words?
similar- I'm sorry?
Yeah,
Does he use TOS words?
Because I think that one of them does.
Yeah, I think one of them he uses like the F slur.
Oh.
I don't remember
I don't
which
know.
one.
I didn't hear anything when I watched this earlier.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I also
Okay, well,
only watched
Doobie is
like
just
75%
It's
of it.
desensitized to that word at this point.
Yeah,
You
true.
run
True,
politics, so-
actually.
Okay. I'll just,
What?
Don't pull a Connor on
Hold on.
us
What
now.
about this?
Open
Hold on. What
up
about this? Let me
slurs.
ask this. How many people here have seen this video? I've seen this video.
I have not seen
So
this.
there's another one where the
I've seen like all of them today, but I can't remember which one's which.
like,
Okay,
we'll
some of
watch
them
him
do
just
have
start out
slurs.
yelling the F slur.
the other one is with a male translator, and this one has a female translator.
Oh wait, hold on. I actually
I think
saw the
this
other one. I saw the other one actually.
Yeah.
I didn't see this
Oh.
one.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Risky business.
Risky bit.
Oh,
all
let's
right.
risk it to get the biscuit.
All
All
right, hold
right,
on,
we're
gonna
already
just-
here.
we're
You
gonna
need to watch it
Yeah,
offline,
you're
see if you
you're not
can-
streaming on Twitch.
Yeah. Listen, I've had my best.
I'm
I've had
not,
my
am I?
best week ever in streaming. I'm not trying to go down
Okay, all right,
today.
listen, that's fine. We don't have to watch it. I'll put the link out there, and
Look at your
anyone can
free
watch it.
speech.
But
get
he's talking about trans people basically in the audience there, and so
Oh yeah,
and
super safe for Twitch.
yeah. So, but here's the thing: is the legislature is very close now. I doubt that it was about that one bill that you guys were talking about before about Social Security benefits or whatever, because that passed by 3 votes in the House. And so that particular vote didn't make a difference. If they were to vote again with Hortman, now out, it would still have passed. And it was also signed by Tim Walz. So it's not, if he didn't want it, he would have vetoed it. So it didn't make a difference for that particular vote. However, there are plenty of other votes where, because the Democrats are only up by 1 in the House. So I believe he thinks now the legislature is over and there'll be a special election before it ever meets again. So it's not going to make a difference. But if this guy is as dumb and crazy as he appears to be, he may not have known that. He may have thought that he could swing things to the other party by doing this. I don't know. But also he had a very long list. So I think he was expecting to kill a lot more people than he did. And I think he was also hoping to make it to some abortion clinics and to impact some abortion clinic providers. And his list indicates that he was on his way there. And some of these issues that were very, very close in terms of the legislature had to do with trans people and all of that. And so based on this video, we know what his perspective is when it comes to trans people.
Hey, actually, I
So-
figured out what he was. He's an Iranian plant because they hate the gays. That's what he was.
It could be, yes. hmm So, well, he's
They don't
an
mind the
evangelical
trans
in Africa.
surgeries, though.
Part of his
They don't
job
mind
there
that,
was
that's
to
for
convince
sure.
people- part of his job was to convince people to leave Islam and go to the Christian church. So I'm not sure how all that works, but in Africa, that Christianity versus Islam is a big thing.
Look,
Uh,
there's this
one
this
second.
discussion.
Alexander win $20 super chat saying Fabian feels like a crypto feudalist. I don't
Cool.
even.
What the fuck does that even mean in relative to this relation to this conversation? I'm okay.
So
Thanks for the 30 bucks for Prime.
people on the left, specifically like the far left, not necessarily like neoliberals or whatever, they have like when they get mad at like ANCAPs, what they do is they try and come up with a new term that has the term feudalist in it as like a means of insulting. So I've heard like neo-feudalist, crypto-feudalist, or they'll just call you like a regular feudalist, or like they'll combine some word with
Neo
feudalist.
is very commonly used.
Yeah,
Sounds
like
pretty cool,
and
though. Yeah.
well,
Everybody wants to be
basically,
neo
like,
anything, right?
I think it
I'm a
originated.
neo-corporatist, actually.
it originated with that oh god, what's that socialist there was some socialist YouTuber did like a thing where he was like saying like I'm gonna follow ANCAP to the logical conclusions, and then he just started with like 20 things that aren't ANCAP, and then like basically proved that like it will turn into a feudalist monarchy where like it'll go all the way back to medieval times and people will like starve to death and they won't get any water and they'll all die and the raiders will kill them, and then like people like took that shit seriously. Yeah, so that's what's going on there.
Okay. All right. Well, that's your response. Thank you, and Alexander went for the. So I wanted to expand the conversation. I wanted to like bring people back in to talk more about like what they see as the state of affairs. Like Doobie, if you're there, friend.
Yeah.
Are you? Yeah. So I think I my list was very small there, but like there's other things we can plant in the prompt. Other things we can plant there. For instance, Luigi, right? Like our friend Gibbs brought him up previously. I think we can say that was a political assassination. We didn't assassinate a politician, but like there was political meaning behind the assassination. I think that'd be fair to
Absolutely.
include.
And the left celebrated that.
Yeah, I mean, like CEOs. I mean, I don't know. Everyone has different thoughts. Everyone has different thoughts about it.
Celebrated, didn't care that it happened.
This is why I
What's the,
respect Gibbs, right?
That's the line.
Because he's consistent, right?
But
the left, though, you're like, oh, I'm not going to say anything about Saint Luigi.
Yeah, but he's hot. You mean Bay Luigi? That's what you mean. Right?
I hate, but
he's grinning. Like, look at him. He's grinning. It's his crush on Luigi.
And Mario
he's
Kart
gay for Luigi right now.
Favorite.
Looking dude, no,
him shirtless.
Luigi is my favorite drivers. I'm going to say that, right? That and Dry Bones. I was a big fan of Dry Bones too. So draw what conclusions you want from that one too. But anyway, friend. So yes, we have a spectrum, right? We can go back farther. We have more to add to this. But it seems to me that the frequency is increasing. And when I see this, right, it makes me think of our neighbor, Mexico. And I don't know about the rest of you guys, right? Like what news sources you look at, right? But the news sources that I look at have talked a lot about the political assassinations in Mexico. They happen a lot, all the time, right?
Yeah,
hundreds of these individuals. Yeah, the cartels like murder these
kill until they get a judge they like.
Yeah, they'll either like candidates or like mayors and governors. Like they've killed a bunch of these victims, right? These individuals as politicians, and it's like an endemic issue, right? Like you're literally taking your life in your hands, becoming a politician down there, and we are far away from that moment, very far away. But I'm afraid of us getting to such a point in time. And do you see anything like that? Do you think maybe that's ridiculous that America could never get to that point, or do you see something to be worried about?
Was that too specifically? Oh, Doobie. Okay.
I don't know. So I think like a couple years ago, I was said probably not. But I do feel like, I mean, and people have been saying this for a while, right? The level of discourse or the violent rhetoric in the discourse is like out of control, right? This has been a thing for a long time, and I've always kind of like dismissed it because people always say this, right? And you can look through history and you'll find plenty of politicians being shot. When we had that shooting at the Republican baseball game or whatever the fuck, like years ago. Right, so like violence happens.
Sorry, you cut out for a second. So
you're talking about Steve Scalise.
Yeah.
No, I was saying that we've had regular occurrences of like political violence forever, right? So like, I think that there is like a tendency to exaggerate the importance of like individual acts of political violence. I mean, but we've had plenty of them even recently. So
yeah, the 60s was.
But I think,
yeah.
But I do think that there is something to be said about the and maybe it's just because I'm in California and I did go down to some of these protests just to watch, right? Not really to participate, but just to watch what was happening, right? Over the last like few weekends. And then I've been following the news, and I listen to my family members speak about shit. Listen to my father speaks about shit, and it's like I just feel like the the temperature is like way up there, right? Like I don't know if it's just Trump, but he's definitely playing a part in it. But I think on both sides, I think that the Democrat like pushing this
We cut out
cut
again.
out
again.
like a fucking fashion. Oh, am I cutting off? God damn it.
You
think
cut
that,
off and then all I heard is fucking.
Cut off and
fashion.
just come back fucking
Yeah,
fast.
fucking fascist.
It's the Zion
Okay, hold on.
for you.
I was gonna say that I think the Democrats, the way that they handled Trump, I think absolutely raised the temperature, calling him a fascist and saying he's an end democracy, yada yada, which isn't that uncommon. The Republicans do the same thing with Obama. He's a communist who's going to destroy the country, etc. But I think that and then Trump coming in and actually doing a lot of the shit that they warned about, right? I think this has like cranked up the temperature a lot, and it seems like it's just getting worse. So I don't know. I don't think we'll ever get to that level. Hopefully, at least not in the near future. But it's possible.
I'm going to go to Ali from him and Corey before I cycle to the rest of you. But Alexander Wynn also said I missed this other $20 super chat from Alexander Wynn. Talking to Fabian, have you been called a Rothbard LARPer? Do you know what that is? Rothbard?
I've never been called a Rothbard LARPer, but Rothbard is Murray S. Rothbard is the founder of libertarianism or anarcho-capitalism. So I guess I don't know. Like Rothbard kind of gets associated these days with like left Rothbardianism because some of his ideas are just kind of dated and old because the theory has obviously gotten better as like people like Hoppe started making rights, and it shifted more to the right wing with additional theorists. So maybe that's what he's talking about. I don't know what he's talking about. If he gives a follow-up, I'll answer.
Okay. Well, thank you. I agree, Alexander Wayne. Rothbard LARPer. That's the only one for me. So I don't know.
Sure.
But thank you,
It's
Alexander. Thank you for 9 Aiko's listening to the video, so why don't we go to Corey? Corey, what are your thoughts looking out into this landscape?
Yeah. Well, so I can't. What was, let's say, alluded to just a few minutes ago, I think by Doobie and iCow. I can't speak to what it was like in the '60s, but based off what I know, and taking, I guess, maybe iCow's word for it, since I think he was closer to that era than I was, but I don't want to make any assumptions. But so whether we get to that level or actually, I don't know how much worse, it's hard to quantify, it was in the 60s. But at least, again, from my subjective experience and actually from the limited data that I have seen, which we don't have a lot, like, yes, there does appear to be a trend, and Lactoid alluded to it in the political polarization and, in-group, out-group affiliation, and people, rejecting, especially those on the left. The left can be definitely guilty of this. And so how do you solve it? And like, can I foresee it getting really bad? Yes, absolutely. Especially in the age of our social media landscape and information landscape of like we are now entering or pretty much already there in the world of generated AI information. Like we see it now in terms of like I don't actually know what is a true video or a fake video. I just assume everything is fake on Twitter. That's like my operating assumption, especially even like going for the videos that I see coming out from Iran. Like I have no idea like what is true, but I'm also not doing any real vetting. And so I can foresee that type of information like as iCal alluded to earlier with Russia in, 2016, around that area, like that will result in probably more polarization and people taking matters into their own hands. And so all that to say is like, I have genuine concerns. I think they're founded, but I could just be fear mongering. I don't necessarily want to do that. But all that to say is like, I don't know what the solution is, especially again, I personally have very grave concerns in terms of AI and its effect on information and people's ability to actually get accurate and correct information. But I could also see the other side of the coin in terms of AI might be better able to fact check things. We see it now actually in terms of right-wing people engaging with Grok on Twitter and not liking.
Yes,
it's like,
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Grok is clearly captured by the left. And
yeah.
The left loves Grok, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
I want to engage actually with the AI thing because I think it has a relevancy with someone on this panel. They know who they are. And I want to because I think it's super interesting. But give me 1 second. Another $50 super chat. From
Yo, making bank
uh,
tonight.
yeah, well, I appreciate Alexander Wynn. We appreciate Sir Bobble. And we appreciate, of course, our friend Sean, who's always gifting a membership every chance that they get. And of course, this is about our friend Scott because he drives engagement. So shout out to my friend Scott. It says, let him sponsor the other thing and then let him know I'm just messing with him. So he's just messing with him. But after that, he says, Prime, Rothbard LARPers play pretend revolutionaries inspired by Murray Rothbard while ignoring real-world power dynamics and human behavior. It's just I'm just screwing with him to get you some donos. Oh, well, thank you. Really, Alexander Wynn, really too kind. Thank you for the people who are supporting this community. I do need your help. And anyone else consider supporting it as well. But Alexander, you're too kind. Sir Bob's too kind. Sean, too kind. Our friend Aiko for resubbing previously. Too kind. Thank you so much for the kindness. I wanted to. Shit, what was I going to say? Oh no, yeah, I want to talk about the AI thing because I think that's really interesting as to what this could lead to. Our friend Ali hasn't said anything. Gibbs, you have your finger up. Did you want to say something as well? All right. And anyone else before I? All right.
Yeah, I think I don't know if we're gonna get to a point where it's like Mexico and where we have like the cartel killing off politicians until they get the ones that they want. I do think we're gonna see more like civilians fighting, right? And it's just I think it's people live a lot of their lives online. And so they're getting rage baited and they're getting like angry all day, and they hate the other side. So like to Lacto's point, there's a lot of it, like there's a lot of like political polarization, and so it's like it's causing a lot of shit. And I don't know. I think people are taking that anger, they're applying it to their real life. They're also, I mean, people they feel like they're broke, they're disenfranchised, whatever it may be. And yeah, I don't see the climate cooling down, right? Especially with like, with what Gibbs was saying, half the country wants something, the other half doesn't want that thing, right? And it's like I don't know how you're gonna coincide though. I don't know how you're gonna like resolve that.
Okay. Let's go to Gibbs.
Yeah.
Lactoid, Scott.
I'm actually going to piggyback off what Sociologic said 2 ways here. 1, I want to thank everybody that participated in the poll I just had with over 100 votes. 2, I will not be becoming the shitty drama react streamer. Thank you guys. We will continue fighting the good fight against the lefties here, teaching them about the deep state and the lizard people. It's important that this continues. Secondly,
you could buy votes in your poll, right?
That's neither here nor there. We're embracing capitalism. But I didn't mind those people bought votes. They used their love and support and the points in that to do it. Because they are actually in my channel, watching and lurking. We big fan. We like our ad revenue. Finally, I would like to come back to another thing Sociologic said is, the country is very polarized. And part of that is, right, we have like policies that one half of the country desperately wants. And when the other half was in power, they were able to implement those policies. And one side, I mean, I guess January 6th, but, they didn't riot for multiple days. They didn't kill lots of people. They weren't out there, getting their Armenian-backed assassination attempts or any of these kind of crazy things. But then we have the other side, killing people, burning down businesses, all sorts of stuff. And we're supposed to act like it's equal, right? The problem is, what democracy, and Fabian's going to be able to, I'm sure, have a field day with this, is part, I guess, violence in the sense that, when one side wins, they get to have their way. And what's happening currently is one side is going, no, you won, but you're not going to get your way. And that's a big problem here going forward. And I don't know how we fix this, because people are coming online and they're getting socially radicalized to the extent to where you can just keep going like down the deep end to the point where you no longer have friends. And I'll even say this, I feel like I'm in a unique situation in the streaming space because I've become more chronically online than I used to be, and that's because Gibbs needs to stop being a fucking utter degen and go in and spending his money on alcohol, women, and cocaine, and spend more of his time on alcohol, cocaine, and internet growth. That's what he should do instead. And so what we're doing here is I encounter these people with these cron online opinions all the time, and they seem to like gather together, then move together, and suddenly like, oh, we developed this like little utopia of circle jerks of ideas, whether they're on the right or the left. And if you're outside of this idea, are willing to even listen to people of the opposite side, then you are the great Satan, and you are some sort of shill. I've been called a Zionist shill this week. I've been called a gun-toting Republican. I've been called all sorts of shit. This just this week from all sorts of things. And like, yes, I probably am a gun-toting Republican, but doesn't mean I'm actively sitting here trying to propose, like they said, the genocide of all vegans, which I don't know how those two go together. But like, yeah, apparently I am. And so like, you get these ideas where anything makes sense, and I'll just go and come after you for just having your own original opinions. And hey, I guess what the future for all of us guys, this is included, is when our numbers start getting bad, what we can do is we can actually become evil and live off the misfortune of others and all become drama streamers and just do react content. And that is the future going forward, boys. That is brilliance. All right, boys. I hope you all look forward to careers as drama streamers if we want to continue. I can't wait to hear Lactoid's opinion on, I don't know, what shirt somebody wore and whether or not they were in danger when they went on a date. I can't wait to hear it.
Where did that come from?
Yeah, absolutely. I
That's
think
awesome.
judging people's shirts, it would be a really
Like
fun
Within
thing
Sky.
to do. First of all, shill is just straight up an ad hom. So I've experienced it a lot more. Okay?
Yeah, of course you say
and-
that.
Yeah, of course I would say that. I've experienced it a lot more, but I've also just seen it a lot more. It just seems like people are very comfortable with just using ad homs instead of actually engaging with arguments. And that's like a typical problem. It's been around for a while. I'm not sure how new that is. It's just, you just have to move past it. Secondly, a question came to me when you were talking Prime. And I'm going to ask you, and also, just like the lefties here, actually, on the panel, I want to get your opinions. So, who would I consider to be a lefty? Definitely Prime and Corey, and Aiko. I think you're a bit of a lefty too. So I'm going to include you in this ask. Have you seen like those memes in which people say like, a valid disagreement is whether or not pineapples belong on pizza, not whether gays deserve rights. Unfriend me now if you disagree.
Rage bait.
Have you seen those?
I've
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
not that specific, but in that vein, that category.
In that vein, right?
Sure.
Rage bait. Yeah.
And I've seen people as well. Well, you say I don't think that's rage bait. I think people are genuinely like serious.
Oh,
Like
they
just
mean
go
it,
ahave and remove
yeah.
yourself if you disagree.
I've
And I've
that
also
exact
seen
quote,
people.
yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it exact quote multiple times. And I've also seen people defend this sort of behavior. Defend like, look, for you it's just like a fun little ideological idea to debate, but for me it's my life. So I'm gonna like, I can't tolerate you. I can't be around you if you disagree with XYZ. Going on the topic of like political polarization, I mean, do you find, to you three, the lefties here, do you find any like credence? Like, if somebody made the argument to you, like, look, I can't, like, as a trans person, I cannot talk with a Republican because they don't validate my existence. Like, what do you think about that argument?
I will gauge that in a second. Sir Bob sent a $2 super chat, says, Logic, aren't you the same person who pushes? I don't know who they're referring to and what specifically. If you could clarify that, Sir Bobbles, and you don't have to put in a super chat, just like
I don't push, I pull.
I'm guessing it's to Scott. Yeah, if you could clarify exactly what you
No, I
meant
just
there.
no idea.
Yeah. Then I'll read that as well. But thank you for the $2 super chat. Alexander Wynn, $10 super chat. It's funny that every major riot has happened under Donald's watch. What's up with that, Gibbs? So Gibbs, you can
Can I
respond
answer
to
that?
and then
Yeah, I would
yeah.
love to respond to that. Well, it's because thank you if you for giving Prime money. That's a big fan. We love capitalism. Prime may pretend he's not a capitalist, but he secretly loves capitalism with all his heart. So big fan of you giving him money. Secondly, yeah, there is a reason why all these riots have happened under Donald Trump. It's because the Democrats have had power for so long that whenever someone else finally gets power and it gets to enact an agenda that goes contrary to what they do, like Fabian said, it is political violence of the kind when you have one group implement their will over the other. That's why if you boil down what our Lactoid and Fabian argue all the time about taxation being theft, it's basically a gun to your head. You have to pay your taxes, right? So this is the same concept, except now we're doing it for other agendas like immigration. Okay, well, we got somebody in here, and this guy wants to push implementation of policies this group of people, in this case it's the Dems, don't agree with. And so now what they're doing, instead of allowing the system that they've chosen to engage in, which is the voting system, and now we're going to let somebody else lead, they instead are going to be sore losers, and they're going to enact additional violence against the rest of the population instead of accepting the group that's now in power decisions and policies. That's why you're seeing them riot while Trump is in office, because they can't cope with their own failures. Just because, and I preach about this all the time, they have been trained by the Democrats, the lefties, and all these people with participation trophy mentalities that they're all special, and anything that runs against their beliefs is bad, and they don't know how to lose because they're a bunch of soy beta cook pussies, and that's the problem. And that's why all their wives get fucked by Republican men. Amen.
Thank you for that, friend. Lactoid. So sorry. Could you repeat the question? I haven't forgotten about you, Scott. Could you
Pineapple
repeat the
pizza,
question?
yay or nay? That was
So the question is like, if let's say a trans person comes up to you and says, I refuse to talk with Republicans or have any Republican friends, or if I see anybody say anything mildly Republican, I just unfriend them on Facebook because my existence isn't up for debate. I don't want to be around anybody who challenges my existence. Right? We can disagree about some things, but this we can't disagree on. I'm going to go ahead and just I can't engage with this person. What are your thoughts on that situation?
Okay, I got an answer for you. One, I would say, like, for me personally, like, engaging with them, I think it's good to engage with people who think that you are lesser than, right? Because I think oftentimes those people haven't had great experiences, or haven't actually like truly gotten to know individual. Like, it's good to humanize ourselves in front of these individuals and know that they do actually have political power. So I think it's a worthwhile project, but not everything, and not one that everyone should have to take on, right? Because it can be emotionally and psychologically exhausting, right? If someone's saying, like, you can imagine, like, you're a trans person, then someone's like attacking you constantly, right? Calling you all kinds of names. Like, not everyone wants to deal with that, right? Then I would say, if not, well, then you should talk to my good friend Lactoid, right? Because as he says, you should be able to segregate yourselves as you wish, right? You should be able to have freedom of assembly, or whatever it is, freedom of congregation. Association, thank you. Right, freedom of association, and so you should be able to cut out people who dislike you from your life.
Hold on, we all agree that you should be able to. The question is, like, is that behavior something that you would want to endorse?
No, me personally, I mean, like, I don't. None of you guys are white nationalists.
I mean, look at the show that he does.
Like, my point is that, like, I talk to people disagree with me constantly, right? And I would talk to people who think of much lesser of me as well.
Yeah, maybe
right?
a debate show is a pretty bad sample to
fair enough.
ask. Fair, yeah. Fair enough.
Someone who disagrees with you and
yeah.
So-
Bad sample. I guess So I guess what I'll say is that I've seen a lot of this amongst my personal social media universe, and these issues have been around since the 90s, right? And Republicans who are pro-life, I mean, they genuinely believe that the left is committing murder, and yet they're still willing, at least some of them are still willing to engage with the left, right? But there's some people who don't as well. They say, like, oh, this is my one issue. If you support like baby killing, then I'll go ahead and unfriend me now, etc. I just think that, like, I get the logic of the argument. That's the thing. I get people who say, like, I don't want to be around people who disagree with me because I hold this value very, very strongly. But the problem is, like, when enough people start doing this, it leads to bad results. Like on like a collect, it almost feels like a collective, like a tragedy of the commons issue, almost a little bit, right?
Lactoids
Like,
slowly discovering individualism.
no, well, no, this. I don't think this is individualism. I think this is a
No,
bunch
it's
of people.
collectivism. It's the problem of collectivism.
I still don't. I don't think this is like a distinction between individualism and collectivism. I think this is a question of. I think this is quite literally a question of tolerance. I think we are becoming less tolerant as a society in
Well,
certain regards, while becoming more tolerant in maybe other regards.
Can I just
So-
like add something to that?
okay.
Because I think it's funny that you say since the 90s, because that's when the World Wide Web popped up, right? And I remember going online maybe in the late 70s, having these conversations with people, and it being kind of an eye opener that I'm finding groups of people who think differently than the group that I lived in. And I think this really came to the head during social media, but I think it's slightly more gradual than that because of the waves of technology that allowed us to communicate with each other. But it used to be that you could live in a part of the country or a part of the world that had certain shared common values, and you just didn't come into contact with people. There were whole like cities and neighborhoods where you would never see a black person, right, in some parts of the country, right, and vice versa. And I think you weren't really confronted with things that would challenge your worldview in that way especially if you didn't want to be that way before these technologies kind of started thrusting us together. And I think now it seems kind of weird that you wouldn't surround yourself with someone who doesn't believe in your particular perspective. But before, we kind of could get away from it to a degree. So when people say I don't have the energy to deal with people who don't think I should exist, I think that's something that I think that's a perspective that's always existed, but it's always been easier, or at least in certain segments of society, at least, it's been easier to not have to confront that, to stay in to stay in a segment that would tolerate you more than being.
How would you?
Else. And now it's almost impossible to get away from it.
Okay, how would you reconcile that with like the data that shows that, like in the 90s, for example, Republicans were much more likely to have Democrat friends, like close friends, and more of them, and vice versa. Like there was more political disagreement that was tolerated amongst friend groups than now.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to talk about the Russian troll farms. I don't think they're the sole source of this, right? But I think that
the Russians.
There are concerted efforts to. Well, it's not just Russia. There's troll farms like that in China.
The Iranians, the Israelis, perhaps.
There's troll farms like this.
Russia.
Russia's just like really good at it. But there were troll farms like that in Ukraine before the war. Lots of them. In fact, they were found during the war. But
I know some Ukrainian troll farms right now. Actually, I've debated some of them.
Getting us to hate each other. Getting us to hate each other is always gonna benefit somebody. And so, and before the way to do that maybe would be you could sponsor a local newspaper or something, but it would be a lot more expensive, and the ROI for it would be a lot smaller relative to like what the costs are. And so I think now it's easier to do something like that. Just like it's always easier to tear down than to build up, right? If you can get people to hate their neighbor, that's a lot easier than to get them to trust their neighbor again. Like that's
We're gonna let in Scott and then Doobie. Hold on, super chat though, just quickly. So Scott, but next we'll go to Scott. He says, "Does Alexander Wynn another $10?" Says you're including every single response you had here to January 6th. I'm guessing this is to our friend Gibbs.
What was the question? I'm sorry, Brian. What did you say?
No worries, friend. He says, Gibbs, you're including every single response you had here to January 6th too, right? I guess like your responses to January 6th.
I mean, I said that, yeah.
Sore losers who can't try to tolerate differing opinions. Gibbs, don't forget the Donald was present during that as well. So there's that. And then $5 from Sir Babo says, since you're all trying to become Jesus, how's your path to becoming the true voice? Gibbs is the strongest, Doobie the logical, and Aiko is the looks. I don't know You guys are talking about being the voice to others. You guys, I'm a little confused about that one.
I don't get it.
Confused, just a touch.
Yeah, it says
sociologic is the closest genetically. You know,
all
while
trying to
we're
become
naming off
Jesus.
random things.
How's your path to becoming the true voice to others? Gibbs is the strongest. Do be the logical, and Echo is the look.
I think the look of Jesus, maybe.
The looks of. Yeah, he
The
might look like
triune-
Jesus.
The triune
Okay.
Jesus within the triune God. That's it's
Mhm,
Inception.
mhm.
Thank you for the super chats. And Gibbs can yell at you in a second if you want to as well. But Scott, Doobie, and then we'll move on.
Did you want Gibbs to respond?
No, go ahead.
Well, I guess he already said.
I did have to wear sandals in class today. Just saying.
So I find this conversation. I'm not trying to insult you all, right? When I say this, when I say that you're all wrong and
You're
you're
gonna do
all
it
so
anyway.
far off.
It's gonna come.
Please
Here we
continue
go.
to insult us.
No,
I find it to be quite dubious. It's not.
yeah. Well, it's just
What the
I
fuck?
think, unironically, I think this is what happens. When people lack a foundation or understanding of culture or sociology, right? Like there is this weird thing where everyone's like, oh, the tribalism, or like, there's elements of the correct answer kind of all in, but there isn't a foundation of how society and culture is structured here. And so obviously I have an entirely different theory, that is mostly borrowing from structural functionalism, but I'll just say this, that like understanding politics, I think you hear this on the right all the time. Culture is downstream of politics. And that's like the beginning of understanding of what I'm talking about, because it's true. Like politics is downstream of culture, but it's also important to understand that culture is downstream of both environmental factors and philosophy. And once you recognize that, this idea of like, how do we stop political extremism, or why is political extremism growing, or like how did we end up where our culture is rotting in such a way? Why is there so much degeneracy? Why is there so much violence? Why is there so much tribalism, etc.? Like you can't, it seems like there's like a self-feedback loop that so many people have when they discuss this, where they're like, the problem with culture is the culture, and the way to fix the culture is to fix the culture. And it's like, that's the entirely wrong answer. It gets you nowhere. The way that you fix this is you have to fix environmental factors and incentives, and you have to fix the philosophy. And so like you have this situation where philosophically the left is, Marxian, obviously, with some, derivation with the Frankfurt School and different camps, and critical theory comes from that. But, there is a lot of Marxist, ideology in most left-wing thought, both neoliberals, Democrats, regular Democrats, as well as many on the center right, as well as obviously like the full-blown tankies that are Marxists, right? And the right has a set of values, but very often doesn't have a cohesive culture. It used to have that with Christianity, but that is completely dying. And so the philosophy of the right is, left-wing philosophy, but with right-wing values and a few right-wing beliefs, like, deontological beliefs that come from Christianity that they're borrowing, or, an understanding of like, the entropic nature of man, etc. And so the thing that's important to recognize is like, why is the left engaging in certain ways? Well, the left is subversive, and that comes from the philosophy of Marxism, but also the left is obsessed with a culture of reputation management that you keep seeing at these protests, this performative activism, this like whatever the new thing is. And so there's these two incentives. Social media is an incentive, and then three-letter agencies, CIA, Doge money, USAID, people like George Soros, right, that are able to get rich by sparking political protests, right? They're the ones dropping off bricks and planning BLM protests. They're the ones trying to make the No Kings protests violent. They're the same people that are, caused the Arab Spring and are causing, causing problems. And I guarantee you, if Israel keeps bombing Iran and we do get a regime change, it'll most likely come from NGOs and CIA that are manipulating their social media algorithms and different things to try and foment additional revolution, because the U.S. government has figured out that boots on the ground is way less effective than controlling institutions and controlling social media. So like if you want to solve this problem, you have to get rid of the incentives and the environmental factors, and you have to change the philosophy. Those are the things that you change. This idea of like, I'm going to talk to, we all need to talk to more people on the other side is useless, ineffective advice that is absolutely meaningless, because you're not actually addressing how we got to where we are, what causes the problems of where we are, and if you're not addressing those things, you're just self-referencing.
What's
We'll
your
fix the
advice?
culture by fixing the culture.
You want systemic change. It's a
No,
systemic.
what specific advice would you give me to address this problem?
Well, I think you're going to have to tackle multiculturalism. The right's answer to that is, deport a bunch of people, and then we'll be a white
know what to do now,
nation. I think
Lockwood,
it's
right?
a terrible idea.
You have an
Right,
action.
I gotta go deport people.
Right. I mean, it's true, right? Like multiculturalism is a problem that is causing tribalism and divide in our country. Like you're seeing a lot of, why are white people that have been under attack for 30 years from every institution in America all of a sudden starting to hate Jews, get more racist, get more comfortable saying the N-word, get all these things, because they feel even more under threat than they used to. And so they feel a need to fight back instead of comfortable. Multiculturalism is a big part of radicalizing the right and making them hate left-wing people. So, I mean, the way that you get rid of a lot of these problems is you got to get rid of government funding to
Let me
institutions.
respond.
You got to get rid of free college, things like that.
Here's what I think. I think that, as usual, you're right about some things. I agree, much to Prime's chagrin here, that whites are absolutely have been under attack. Of course, this is the case. Don't
They were fine
necessarily
with it when
agree
they
with
had
mass
enough money and
deportations.
opportunities.
But here's
That's
what I
the
don't
other one.
get.
It's material
Like,
conditions.
Like, you seem to discount like small things sometimes, when like small easy things that we should like push people to do can be like a small way of making things better. Yeah, ultimately, you're going to say that like dissolving the state, and I'm going to say like minimizing the state, are going to like solve a lot of problems. Sure. But like in the meantime, shouldn't we also just like, I don't know, some like do a little bit of interpersonal hippie shit?
Yeah,
Like, hey, let's get along.
I agree
let's
that
talk
is
with
a
each other.
protective factor, right? That's a protective factor, right? But protective factors don't ultimately change anything. It's a band-aid that might get us along longer, but if we don't fix the incentives, we're going to continue to have more violence, more tribalism, more. I mean, like, yeah, if you want my ultimate answer, you shouldn't have to be around people that you don't like, and you
On a
shouldn't
good
have
day,
to
he's
have your
not gonna
money
be calling
fund
for
whatever it
help.
is that they
You
like.
shouldn't
It's
have to.
dissolving the safe. But my argument is
But it's good to be around
contingent
people.
upon
Yeah,
dissolving the
bitching about
state.
shit, but he's
My
not gonna
my
be-
argument
he's not
is
gonna
having
know.
a good
That's not
understanding
what
of
he does.
sociology,
All right?
where
If
culture
you were
comes from,
watching his stream,
and
all
focusing
right,
on
before he
incentives
called in,
and
he
philosophy
was talking about
that are
Iran stuff.
both.
So I was trying to focus
culture
back.
I just think that sometimes like
probably
can I read the last sentence? Like sometimes I think the classic saying here is like
I'm
sometimes you
sorry that I'm
misquote.
hard
I think
wrangling, and I have to
sometimes,
explain that I'm
like you have
hard
such like
wrangling.
a kind of higher order level like view of things that like the small
Oh my
things
God,
that we
okay.
can do as
No,
individuals,
what I'm
because
trying to
I
say
can't
is,
go and change
at that
the system myself, but I can like choose to block people or not block
So-
people.
I'm not missing
And
the
I
force
can't
of the trees.
advocate
I'm
for
saying it's
certain
I'm saying it's a band-aid.
Stop talking
Well, no, I
conservative.
have to respond to this. All right, I waited for everybody to talk. I'm going to respond.
No, you can
It's
just
gonna be
concede.
quick.
You don't have to respond.
Okay. No, like listen, I'm not missing the forest for the trees, and I don't discount that is a protective factor, that can help stem the tide, that might help in some
Okay.
way push.
Okay.
My problem is that we recognize culture as an issue, and you cannot fix culture by fixing culture. You have to fix what it was that broke the culture.
Okay, so
Feminism.
I'm gonna go to no.
a factor.
We can all agree
That
women
goes
did.
under the philosophy section.
100% it was women's fault. Hold on. I want to go to Doobies with Woody kindly and Aiko as well. I do want to engage Lactoid. What you said, I actually want to engage with you. I think maybe we can find some common ground. I think if we try. But I want to do it later, friend Doobies.
So I also want to engage with Lactoid actually. So because I totally understand Lactoid's position, right? So I'm a person who enjoys discussing things. I have lots of friends who disagree with me about fucking everything, right? It's a really good time. I like arguing. I like hashing out ideas. It's really fun to me. However, I think that you're speaking from when I say that I'm opposed
Position
to
of privilege.
Exactly. Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
I know all the arguments
Well, let me
already.
explain. Hold on, but I think I understand the knee jerk. This is like silly, but there's like some truth to it. So, I'll give you an example, right? In my own life, my wife is a diehard Trump supporter. She doesn't follow his policies at all. Pisses
So
people off,
it's
and that's it, right?
Mega
That's
girl
literally all it
energy.
is, right? It's literally all it is. My sisters are very, 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 very anti-Trump. All three of them. The youngest is like, she's more like me because I mean, growing up, I like semi-raised her, so we'd have a lot of like arguments and discussions about politics and philosophy and all kinds of shit, right? So like, she likes to like just bounce around ideas, and she's just like me. The other two are very like, I mean, I think I told you that one of them is like non-binary now. Yeah. So something that's happening right now in my family is those two siblings of mine married illegals. Both of them. So, and
Doing
As
God's work.
are.
Doing God's work.
yeah, fuck you. So they both married illegals, right? One of them a legal woman who was brought over, I think, when she was like 2 or something, and the other legal man who was also brought over when he was like 3 or 4 or 5 or something. Right?
Criminals is what you're saying, dude.
Yeah, criminals. Yeah,
Hardened
And-
criminals.
and in both cases, I mean, my understanding, right, I spoke to them about this a bit.
Better get them a farm
Uh,
job.
My understanding is that
Oh,
they
Trump
have
job.
been trying for a very long time
That's Trump town.
to figure out some way to get citizen, like a visa or a green card or something, right? So they can stay here legally. And they've been going through the process. They paid lawyers. They've been ripped off by a bunch of lawyers. Fuck you, Lactoid. Like they have like these horror stories, and I was talking to them about like, hey, this guy said, you just give me a retainer of like 5,000. I get started. They give him the money. He fucking disappears. Doesn't answer their calls, and they can't do shit because if they go to the police, they're gonna get deported. And so like, they're afraid they're gonna get deported. So like that kind of stuff was happening for a long time, right? And now that Trump's in office, and I think for a long time they kind of like bought this like a sanctuary state kind of thing, because we're in California. So it wasn't like at the top of their mind for this reason. Given that they'd already tried to go through some kind of legal process before. But now with people being picked up all over the fucking place, people have been here for 30 years in some cases, no criminal records. Now they're fucking terrified, right? So I need to keep my wife from discussing politics around them. Just realism. And my father, there's like both those siblings they live much closer to my father, right? So they interact with him way more often. And he is also a diehard Trump supporter. Like the way more, like he will sit there and watch Fox 24/7. Like that's all he just gobbles up the Republican narrative all day, every
He
day,
has
right?
Truth Social. He doesn't just get the memes.
Exactly, right? So there's been like apparently like massive. My youngest sister will like text me or call me about this. She's like, they came over, they're like arguing and yelling, and my sisters are saying they want to cut off our father and all this kind of shit, right? And I can totally understand how, given that their spouses might be deported due to the policies that my father supports, that has a real impact on them, right? And if he's supporting this, like, I don't know how the fuck you mesh these two things together, right? You can't just say, oh, well, it's just politics, just ignore it. It's just ideas, who cares? Like, that's a real fucking consequence. It might actually happen to them. So, like, I don't know, I think in a lot of ways you are speaking from a position of privilege, but I don't think that's like necessarily a bad thing. I think you still have to communicate with each other, right? So I don't agree with cutting people off.
Doobie,
but-
Doobie,
Yeah,
I
I
want to
gotta
appreciate you saying I'm right.
I do want to respond to this.
You know, I just saying,
let me-
Doobie, I appreciate you saying I'm right and that the culture is downstream from the environmental.
Oh, okay.
You're welcome, Scott.
I
agree
just
with
wanted to say, like the moral of the story that I got, Doobie, like unironically a little bit maybe, is that the underprivileged are poisoning American discourse to some extent.
Oh my god.
Like,
Oh, God,
to
bro.
some extent, I mean this, right? Because in the 90s, this wasn't so much of a big problem. So what you're saying is that there's been an increase in groups since the 90s, which probably is true, that are deemed or self-deemed to be underprivileged, and that these people are contributing to like the decline of American political discourse.
No, that's stupid.
Well, it is literally happening.
You're high.
Right? I'm not high. I'm not high
No,
at all.
so it's
I'm
so it's not that they're
I've been on
contributing to
camera,
the
you know
down.
I'm not doing drugs.
Okay, it's not that I don't know that they're not high on something right now. Okay,
Same
you are a lawyer. We all know that you
Right.
guys do coke. Okay,
Like literally,
so like
I
my
hold on,
my understanding is that
energy
like
right now at this time.
yeah, they did it.
yeah, I'm in with coke energy right now, 100%
Yeah.
actually.
And
Yeah,
like
but
so,
No,
there are a lot
like
of
for real though,
people
because I've had like 3
that
cups
do
of coffee in the
these
last like hour.
things, and those are people
So
who probably
what was I going to say?
filter
Okay,
out of
so
our
I'm
understanding
sorry to cut you out or
because
to interrupt
aren't
Ico and
engaging
Gibbs. I think
in
we're
should
going
be
to go
sorry.
good faith
But just really
with
quick.
regards
So like
to
my
the topic.
the way that like
Unless we
the way that I would think
make
about this, and I was thinking about this when Ico was saying this, right?
larger
The troll farms and whatnot.
that is who
I
gives
think that
us
Mike
due to the
Cernovich
internet, due to things like YouTube and Twitter and all
He's
this
a
kind of
silly
like this
little
24/7
retard.
connectedness,
No,
right? We're all
Mike's
just
not
connected to each other all the
okay,
fucking
but I
time
don't
in
know
some
if he's
way.
a
Like our
pedophile
brains are all
Nazi
on this
because I've
fucking
gone
internet,
over that
just
drama,
bouncing around
so
each
I
other.
don't know that.
We have way more
Well,
access
then, do you want
to what each of these groups actually fucking thinks, right? And in the 80s and 90s, if you know about Republicans, you might think, oh, well, maybe they have different ideas about immigration. They like this policy more than that policy, and I disagree with this. But now you can go on Twitter and see them typing out fucking crazy shit about all this like wild racist nonsense, right? Or this wild shit about like transing the kids and shit, which is gonna make you way less likely to want to be around these people.
You agree that like we've had multiple debates in here about transing the kids, okay?
No, it's not. Hold on, Lactoid. It's not that I'm saying that this isn't something that like you should be opposed to. I'm saying that having access to that part of somebody's brain 24/7 and being bombarded with this by algorithms, which are going to show you the most extreme things because they get the most eyes and clicks. Like it's going to warp your ability to like fully understand like your fellow human.
Yeah,
And
social
then it's
media.
the worst shit from those 17%.
Right, social media likely
Yeah.
has
She was
has
found
served
innocent.
as
She was
a
found
megaphone
Yeah, I think that she's a
for
terrible
like
mother.
this
I said
kind
that
of
specifically, not anything about her guilt
for what you're describing. And I think that, but it's also true
Right,
that
so
I think
moving back
the
to
people
Admiral
who complain the most
Gibbs,
on
yeah,
social media
with that
are
disgusting,
those sort of underprivileged groups that we're talking
liver
about.
failure.
I'll end on this,
Grand
or I
Duke.
guess I'll end this kind
You
of
know,
line of
he's
thought on this.
He's almost
Like,
he's
if
too
you're
dumb.
pro-life, again, you believe that a mass murder on a scale that would embarrass the Holocaust has been happening for decades. And if you're willing to, like, if there's pro-lifers, like Republicans overwhelmingly are pro-lifers, who are willing to, like, engage with the other side when they believe that, I feel like anything else is, like, bitch made if you don't want to have a conversation with the other side, right? If we're like, whether it be trans, illegal immigration, or whatever, all of that is like pales in comparison to what pro-lifers believe abortion is. And yet they're willing, like, disproportionately, it seems like, are more willing to have conversations with people than the sort of underprivileged groups that you're talking about, Doobie.
It sounds like they don't actually believe that it's murder, but yeah.
There's that too. But let's go to our friend Aiko. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just respond quickly just to that whole conversation, but then I'll say the thing that I was going to say to begin with. But I think the same thing, Doobie, is happening in my family. We're to the point in my family where if we continue to talk politics in each other's presence, it would end the family. And there's been multiple points at which it almost did. And because people in my family like know what I do for a living, I'm a debate coach, for those who don't know, they immediately want to ask me like political questions, like at Thanksgiving or whatever, just because of that. And I can give them
I
responses.
think we all know that sentiment here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can give them responses that are designed to not be divisive and try to like reach out as much as I can. But it doesn't matter because I'm gonna trip across some Fox News talking point, or I'm going to have got people in the family who are also like way further left than me, so I can kind of like trip over both of those. It is true, Lactoid, that I cop to being on the left, but people on the left often don't count me as one of them. So we'll just do with that what you will.
Because they purity test.
Happening in my family, and I'm waiting for the day because my sister, who's a big like MAGA supporter, I'm waiting for the day when her because she's on disability, has been for years, when her disability gets taken away because somebody took a picture of her, like, you know, standing out in the lawn, you know, with a weed whacker or something, like that's going to happen, I think, at some point, because in Texas, that's what the state does. It's taking those photos and stuff to try to get people kicked off disability. When that happens, I don't know how she's going to react, because she's certainly not going to blame it on Trump. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that certainly happens. But and I think that this. Anyway, the thing I wanted to bring up was there was this TV show on I want to say it was on HBO or something. Maybe somebody will recognize it. It's where this black guy goes and he talks to people who he fundamentally disagrees with the most. And there was sort of like a famous episode where he goes and hangs out with these Klan members and he has these conversations with them. And ultimately, after like 3 years of this, he finally convinces one of them to not be a racist anymore or whatever. And so to Lactoid's point, like those are the kinds of conversations where it can work. But like Prime said,
That's why I hang out with racists.
yeah, but like Prime said, you've got to deal with your like own mental health first. And not everybody has like enough what is it, arrows in the quiver, is that what they say, like, or spoons? Nobody has enough spoons. Not everyone has enough spoons to deal with that, right? There comes a point at which you just have to stop talking
And,
about
like,
it. I mean, there's somebody,
Primordial
girl I'm
answer
dating
for the
right now, I
control-
can't talk
controlling
politics
part.
at all.
But like you said,
if I say
this
something that's
specific
unpleasant
rhetoric,
about
I
politics,
understand we're not going to
she's
change
still
their
complaining
minds.
to me that I mentioned
but,
the
like,
name Trump
There's a
6 months
difference.
ago.
There's an in between.
And she's terrified that he's going to do something that's going to affect her life negatively or whatever,
even his own
and so she just doesn't want to hear about any of it. And so I just
Yeah,
bring it up to her.
same.
Wait, but you don't like
Yeah,
Trump though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not
but
just
like,
that.
but like, Icon's
negative.
problem is probably like if you do anything where it's like rationalizing the other side or understanding the other side, it immediately comes off as like a defense of the other
Yeah,
side, right?
Yeah, I've met people
And
like that,
so, I deal with the
Why
same.
would you date
But that's the
somebody like
problem. Well, I'm not gonna. We're not
That's
gonna
so
question
wild.
Aiko's love life, okay?
His-
But like,
his-
but there are a lot of people like that. But that's part of the problem. Like, people,
Why
like,
would you put it into the debate panel? Like,
Oh,
No,
why
I
would
tell you
you-
what, I was raised that way. My grandmother was that way. Like my grandfather
just trying to
was, like,
understand.
extremely
That's wild.
political. He never had those conversations with my grandmother because she was entirely non-political. I kind of grew up with that. That was
Scott,
kind of a norm at the culture. There were people in the family that would have knockdown, drag-out conversations, and then there were others where there were other people around the family where you just knew not to talk about politics.
so
Either they
Scott, I can answer that question very simply for you, right? I've actually seen Aiko's girlfriend. She's actually super hot. That answers that.
Okay,
Unlike
look, I'm sorry,
Doobie-
but yeah, it's kind of
Unlike Doobie, whose wife to this day I still haven't seen, and it hurts me every time I think about it. Right? I'm still dealing with that eternally. But Aiko has shared himself with me, and his wife, or sorry, his girlfriend is like, super attractive. So don't worry about that part. Let's go to our
Politics also isn't like a huge part of a relationship. Like I don't think Icon bases his relationship in politics.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
totally understand not talking about politics that much, but somebody that is like chastising you for using the word Trump 6 months ago, like
It sounds like
I
Shrew
hope
was-
you're exaggerating.
Sure, it was
Because if that's like
hyperbole.
a constant point of
That's-
contention, like
That was a
that's
little
like a
mini-fight.
mental health issue.
Well, it is. It
That
is.
was pretty
Yeah,
cute,
it
taking
is.
you
But
to-
it's
don't please say she doesn't watch
And I
this.
hope
have
she's
our-
watching.
no, she doesn't watch these for that very same reason. Yeah, it would.
No,
it
talk-
would-
No,
Of
we'll mention
course,
Trump
of
here.
it would
course,
give her an
yeah.
anxiety.
Yeah.
Like it would. Yeah, it would. Be
Talk
tricky.
to Aiko offline about his hot girlfriend. He'll tell stories.
I goes in the dentist's office like, baby. Oh, let me get a blanket and cover up the CNN on the TV.
Oh my God, Admiral Gibbs. I'm sorry, it was a while ago. You had something to say, dude. And I apologize. It's taking me a while.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I apologize, friend.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a problem. It's
Landlin Stewart gave $10 on Super Chat. There's a new person. A new person has entered the
The Golden Circle
donation
Club.
ring. Sorry, I don't know. Then come. Sorry.
The Dono Dome?
It says
The Dono Dome. I like it.
the Dono Dome. See, oh guys, you guys are something better than me. Pro-life opinions hurts their feelings. Pro-life opinions hurts their feelings. Lack of trans healthcare can actually hurt them. And a racist people do hurt Black people. It's a matter of investment in a topic and always has been. Okay, yeah. So thank you, Landon Stewart, for the $10. And I think you're hitting on something.
Yeah,
right
facts
there.
don't care about your feelings, Lactoid.
Yeah.
Well, hold on.
They're
hold
hitting on
Wait,
something. They're just like those are like random bullet points of pre-programmed NPC bullshit. You should spend that $10 on BetterHelp and go see a therapist.
No, you just spend the $10 on me. If you have $10, spend that on me.
Better health
But
is here.
Crime is better than better health.
But no, yeah, okay. So I know what Lacto is gonna say. I know like response, right? Like if their perception is right, or maybe I don't know. That's right. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, you're probably right.
If their perception is that like a little Holocaust is happening, right? And I've heard them speak in this term.
Probably worse than like experiencing a little racism. Yeah.
Oh, actually,
Yeah, if they and sometimes and I've heard it among Black people too, actually, right? Because they're like, well, they put a lot of abortion clinics within Black neighborhoods, right?
Kanye
And
was
so
saying
we
for a
gotta
while
go
the
to where
biggest,
customers are.
yeah, the biggest amount of Black murder was in the abortion. Abortion
Yeah,
clinic.
yeah, right. If people,
All right, you want to know why I talk over?
I listen
That's
to
why I
Kanye
talk
too.
over, because I know you're doing.
I'll say this, right? An imagined. I didn't hear what you said. I'm sure it was funny.
He said I listen to Kanye too, just randomly.
Oh my god. Funny.
You also misunderstood on Twitter.
An imagined like
True.
hurt, right?
felt that, Kanye.
or wound. It's just as real as an actual one, right? Like if yes, racist individuals can hurt Black people in real life, right? in very real ways. But if you imagine that there is a Holocaust happening, right, then it's just as real as if one was happening to you, right? You'll react the same way.
It's
Is
the
that what
Thomas
you're gonna say,
principle
Lactoid?
in sociology.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that when people are talking about racist, like, yeah, there's the potential, the very, very, very low potential, statistically speaking, that someone's like going to assault somebody physically in a racist attack. But most of the time, what people are referring to, and it's like, well, racism is fucked, is really like they're referring to like
New York.
Well, even then, it wasn't statistically that much. It was like a couple like high-profile incidences, and like what the real thing that they're getting at is like racism hurts people's feelings in like a pretty egregious way, and this is fucked up. You shouldn't do it. And this is why like you shouldn't be allowed to be racist. Like we treat this with like the people who are unfriending people on social media for racism. They're not doing it. The primary motivation is not I'm afraid this person might show up and punch me. It's I'm seeing this racist shit on my social media and it hurts my feelings and I don't want to see it anymore. And what I'm saying is for those people or the trans or the kind of trans equivalent to that, like I'm sorry if the pro-lifers can put up with the shit they're seeing when they believe that a mass murder is happening, then I think that anybody should be able to put up with any of that.
They're not befriending, like, but wait. A pro-lifer that actually holds his belief isn't like befriending like someone who's pro-choice or gets an abortion.
They are. I think they are.
But getting an abortion
like
is different.
actual attacks on abortion, like I believe from like 1970 to like 1980, there were huge attacks, multiple attacks on. Now, probably ICAO can maybe speak to this a bit better than I can, but there were very noteworthy attacks on abortion clinics over and over and over again. And even I think
why would that be wrong?
Or a couple of
why would it be wrong to blow up an abortion clinic?
Please, can we not do this? Please.
I'm more than happy to go
He's
down that
asking
road.
a question that we all know the answer to. It's just like a rhetorical. Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah.
TOS, Twitch.
Like, what's your rationale? Why is that wrong?
If you want to have the,
Why are you AQing right now?
If time wants to go in that direction, I'm more than happy to engage with that.
Scott, are you a Fed?
Yeah, goddamn. Thank you. Now you sound like me, Lactoid. Welcome to the Republican Party, Lactoid.
Sounding glowy?
I am more than happy to show that you're irrational.
I have an argument
Don't
as to
admit
why it's
anything.
wrong. Do you?
Okay, yeah. What Scott meant to say is that we all know that blowing up an abortion clinic is wrong, right? What happens to be your reason for not blowing up an abortion clinic?
I asked a question.
Corey.
I asked a question, and we're all so afraid of certain questions. How are we supposed to befriend people we disagree with if you can't even answer a fucking question without spurting?
He's trying to answer the question. Keep talking over him, Corey.
Well,
I'm talking about everybody here, freaking out.
If you want to go down the abortion road, I'm more than happy to go down to the abortion, but that's going to extend the conversation. Like, do we want to go down that road now in terms of where does life begin? I'm sure Scott is way more knowledgeable about biology than I am. So if you want to go down that road, let's go down that road. Do we want to go down that road?
What does biology have to do with any of it? You didn't answer the question. You just talked about biology. This is scientism nonsense.
I actually think masturbation is murder.
Scientism nonsense.
And yet you engage with all of us here. See, you are a very tolerant person, Ollie.
Exactly.
You think that all of us here are murderers, yet you engage with us. Look at that.
Thousands a day. You're killing thousands of potential.
Millions. No, a lot more than that.
It's fucking, the most moral human on the planet is a right wing bro that practices semen retention.
Oh God, bro. Oh man.
But all that to say is there was an epidemic of abortion clinic attacks.
I know there was a few, yeah.
There was more
But,
than
but it's like irrelevant to my point though, because like the argument was, I mean, I would agree that like pro-choicers, or I think like an abortion doctor probably has like much more of a credible threat to them than like just an average black person or average trans person on the internet. And I also, but you could also, I mean, the pro-lifers who are like a pro-lifer who believes this is happening and like befriends people who support the abortion doctor, like they think what's happening is on a scale much worse than any kind of abortion clinic bombing, right?
No,
I
you're
think they're
completely
actually
wrong.
befriending the people. Like, this would be
a
really
doctor-
weird if someone was against the Nazis but was friends with a Nazi.
Your
Like, that-
average-
Well, I don't
your
have to
average-
go off anecdotal
your
experience.
average- no, you're
let me
wrong
just real
because
quick.
your average black person is more likely to be killed by a black person than any abortion doctor.
Well, that's why I'm
Exactly.
specifying
Not according to
racism.
Statistically
Kanye.
Like
speaking,
racist attacks.
just by
Not according
not
to
being
Kanye.
black, they're less likely to be killed.
Well, I know I'm talking specifically about like racism because we're talking about why the reasons why people like
a racially
exclude people
motivated
from their
crime
life.
or hate
Yeah,
crime.
exactly.
Yes.
Like, and I'll just be honest, like the pro-lifers that are friends of mine and that I see on the internet are seemingly like far more tolerant and far more wishing to have that conversation than plenty of other people, including pro-choicers, actually. Like
Most pro-lifers
that seems
are
to be a pretty
Christians.
consistent.
They believe people can be saved. They believe
Yeah.
in redemption. The left
Maybe we should
doesn't
all become
necessarily
Christian.
believe in redemption or in people being saved. I mean,
I should be
obviously
saved.
they believe it to some degree, but by and large, the left will like dig up a tweet from like 10 years ago, even though you're not that person anymore, just to corrugate and attack you. And again, that comes from the philosophy, and that comes from environmental
Don't-
factors. Like
and,
it's like
and
and the philosophy
don't
of
even
Christianity
bother
is willing to
going-
engage with those people because they
Don't
believe
even-
you can be saved.
don't even bother going 10 years back to Scott, like literally last week, I'm sure. Something awful. I'm going to save you some work.
Just ask me some opinions. I'll give you some. I'll give you some shit that will get me canceled by the left today. I don't care.
Gibbs, please.
Yeah, I have to go here pretty quick, so I just want to make a closing statement, an outro real quick. Yeah, I mean, as far as the original topic about the Minnesota shooter, yeah, I mean, I think there's some sus shit going on, whatever. Wouldn't surprise me if it's a, three-letter agency, would not. Political violence is bad overall, left, right, whatever, in the United States. It seems like the environment is kind of leading towards that. Also, guys, if you're a right-leaner, guess what? If you get any kind of success, they're going to come for you, and they're going to call you a pedo-Nazi. So once they've called you a pedo-Nazi, you have made it. That's an exciting
already knew
moment.
that.
Yeah, it's an exciting moment. I want everybody to, I want to give myself a pat on the back. We have now made the threshold for people to call me that, and now I feel very much more emboldened to be on more shit. So thank you for all my haters that said that today. Prime, thanks for always having me on. Appreciate you always having me on. You're the best. And I want more lefties to be like Prime. Prime is willing to have tough conversations with people that he disagrees with, and we might disagree on a lot of shit. We yell at each other. We call each other idiots all the time. But you know one thing that Prime's not? He's not a baby back bitch. All the rest of y'all, we all baby back bitches. Y'all won't say shit to my face. Y'all won't say shit to these other people's face. And then you get in your little fucking support groups and you circle jerk and cry to each other and think you're so big and bad for calling people pedo-Nazis and saying, we'll punch a Nazi. And then when you actually talk to them, you back down like a little bitch and you won't do it in person. You'll do it, and you barely do it online, and you have to go off cam to do it. I applaud everybody here for coming and having discussions, and I applaud Prime for hosting these for such a regular occasion. And this has been my most successful last week, and I give a lot of credit to the people that have originally brought me around, like Prime. I highly recommend giving y'all, if y'all can donate, give donations to streamers like Prime and the rest of us, because anytime you give donations, it allows us to continue doing what we're doing and having these discussions. So thank y'all for letting me have me here. Thank you for having me today, Prime. I have to go, guys. Thank you so much.
Before you go,
Go ahead.
Gualtier of Vienna, the original pedo-Nazi, he was the leader of the Hitler Youth or whatever. You're in good company.
Oh, fantastic! That's what I like to hear. We made it. We made it. We're making it. Making big strides. All right. Thank you all so much, guys. Y'all have a good one.
Have a
You're
good one,
good.
friend.
You well?
One day.
Yeah, guys, we are going to end now because I'm fucking tired. Tomorrow. Here's the plan for tomorrow. We are gonna stream. I don't think I'm gonna do politics because I've done politics for like 8 days straight, and I'm tired, boss. And so what we're gonna do now is we're going to raid somebody. Let's raid Lactoid since he's still going, or we'll just raid Prime because he's still going. On this. So that's what we're gonna do. Yeah, I mean it's fine. There's writings there. I'm gonna raid the people that support me and have had me on. Prime is one of those that's done that for a long time. So big fan. We're gonna do that right now. So y'all have a good rest of y'all's day. Enjoy the debate. I'm gonna go relax and play some games and sleep. So y'all have fun. Thanks for being here.